Over the last year, I've become quite the fan of MiniForce, a South Korean henshin show that many people like to consider the animated Power Rangers. I've watched the first 3 iterations of the show and the first 2 movies, so this video will break down the entire first saga of stories. The complete history of MiniForce, Part 1. Before we get into it, I'm giving away this MiniForce Black Ranger figure completely for free. The deadline was originally April 7th, but I've postponed it 1 whole week to April 14th. If you want to enter, just head over to my Instagram page linked in the description, check out the top pinned post and follow the instructions. Good luck! MiniForce, the reoccurring meme in the Power Rangers fandom that this is the animated show that we never had. But aside from the memes or the fan edits, I've never seen this show, just assuming it was some sort of like brain rot kid show. And you know what they say, to assume makes an ass of you and me, because brother, was I wrong? So MiniForce is a South Korean animated henshin show that first aired in 2014, but we got the English dub in 2016. The show follows 4 sentient animals: Volt, a squirrel; Sammy, an owl; Max, a beaver; and Lucy, a fox. And whilst they may look like cute little animals, they actually work for an organisation called MiniForce, and they are the agents, or in the US dub, the Rangers, with their suits based off of what sort of animal they are. The original iteration of MiniForce has 2 seasons, because yes, there are multiple iterations, and I've just watched them both. And I'm going to talk about episode 1, which really sets up the show, and then go through the 2 seasons and just talk about the most impactful moments as to why this is actually a decent show. Episode 1, of course, introduces us to the whole show, opening with a pretty sick historical recap of the world we're in, told in like a sort of ancient sketchbook. The basic concept is that the smaller animals couldn't defend themselves against the bigger animals, so MiniForce as an organisation was formed to do so. We then cut to the present day and meet our protagonists. Volt, the Blue Ranger, who emphasises his amazing speed; Sammy, the Red Ranger, who emphasises his awesome jump; Lucy, the Pink Ranger, who has mystical magic; and Max, the Yellow Ranger, who has mighty power, aka he's strong. We see them fighting off a fleet of robots before summoning their force weapons. A colour-coded yet albeit identical set of weapons that have transformation features, mainly switching between a sword and a blaster. And we then meet the show's big bad, a human called Nine. He is a mad scientist and wants to take over the entire world, starting with the smallest of the animal kingdom. The robots we see are his, who were specifically built to the size of said animals. A weird one, for sure, but his design kinda looks like something out of Megamind, so I mean, it's kinda cool. And along with the smaller robots, he has bigger robots he can pilot called Mechamons. And yes, you're not mistaken, that does smell like a lawsuit. We're then introduced to the B-plot, when the MiniForce aren't fighting crime, they're standard household pets. Their owners are Susie and her little brother Louie, although it's hard to work out whether this is a Garfield situation and Susie knows they're sentient, or if we just as the viewer see them interact and they're actually just animals. She laid out like a tiny dinner table for them and stuff like that, and they do have conversations, but it's a hard one to put together. The team are then called to action via their force gems, leading to them sliding down some sort of escape hatch into these Bakugan-style balls. Arriving at a secret underground base, they surround a table where someone appears in a hologram. This is Commander Chen, a cat and senior member of MiniForce who acts sort of as their mentor. And he's the guy that basically briefs them on their mission each episode. They get briefed for today's mission, and once they have all the info, it's morphin' time.
MiniForce, transform!
You know what? The morphing sequence is kinda fire, like I fuck with it. I like how their shapes morph to become more combative, and the armor paired with the neon lights just looks powerful, bro, come on. A fight then breaks out, not too dissimilar from the fight at the start of the episode. It mainly just shows off the Rangers' abilities individually. Until the Mechamon appears towering over them, and the Rangers must escalate the battle.
Force car, dispatch! Dispatch!
Okay, so these are the Force cars. 4 cars that can transform into humanoid mechas. They're essentially Transformers, which I know technically all Tokusatsu transforming robots are Transformers, but I mean, these are Transformers. Like, you could have found these in Transformers 1. And so, with the power of teamwork, the Mechamon is destroyed by using Force Flash, a boomerang-style weapon that attaches from the blue mecha but is powered by all the mechas. And this is then used as the finishing strike. Episode 1 then ends with Nine crying over his defeat until a bunch of his robots return to him, followed by the Blue Ranger, and then the episode ends. Unsurprisingly, the structure of this show is the same as any other tokusatsu. The heroes are B-plotting whilst the villains plan an attack. The heroes get a call to action, moving into their ranger forms and fighting the bad guys. The bad guys grow and the rangers call on their mechas, followed by an epilogue. For the creators of the show, they know what's up. In episode 2, it's revealed that the Blue Ranger is actually a purple lizard MiniForce Ranger called Pascal. However, he is a ranger gone rogue that wants to team up with 9 to take over the animal kingdom. During the Rangers briefing, Commander Chen reveals that Pascal was a MiniForce agent over 100 years ago, but was locked away when he became evil. However, there was a massive prison break and Pascal, along with a bunch of other villains, were freed in the process. And so Pascal kind of becomes the main general for the majority of the show. Nothing too much changes until we hit episode 9 of the show, where we meet Ipus. Ipus is a black cat who Susie brought in off the street, and all the guys are pretty much simping over her instantly until she is caught stealing their Force gems. It's then revealed Ipus is another rogue ranger. She's the Black Ranger that works for Pascal until he double crosses her and keeps her captive. She's then saved by the other rangers and instantly fucking dies.
Apis!
No, not really. She shows up at the end of the episode, but they don't imply that at all. Like, if you didn't watch the end, she's dead. And they use the concept of evil rogue rangers quite a bit throughout the show. There's another Black Ranger who's a bat, and they can only be defeated with sunlight. There's also a violet skunk who was shunned from her friends because she smells nice in comparison to other skunks. Although these never really last more than one episode at a time. There's also a Green Ranger called Hawk who left the team because he had beef with the Red Ranger Sammy. Potentially a Geki Brai Jason Tommy reference there, which is kind of weird that they made the Green Ranger have beef with the Red Ranger, even though it's clear that in this show the Blue Ranger's the leader. Not that 2 members of the team can't beef, but for him to then leave the team was kind of weird. The episode that Hawk shows up in particular is actually really cool. There's a battle between Green and Red, and then he kind of helps the team to fight the Mechamon, but then he still ends up leaving after the episode. I mean, admittedly, he shakes hands with the Red Ranger. Spoiler alert, we don't see him again for the rest of the show, or at least for MiniForce, not including the other shows that came after. I just think that's a wasted opportunity. He looks sick, he's a Green Ranger, which is sick anyway, and that could have been a cool moment where they shook hands and then gained a 5th member again. Well, I guess fucking not. Then we get to episodes 23 through 26, which is essentially one big story culminating the show, or at least season 1 of the show. Episode 23 introduces Ray, the Black MiniForce Ranger, and the official Black MiniForce Ranger, not Ipus from the start and not the Bat Ranger. To begin with, Ray seems to be a Ranger gone rogue, having this epic introduction where he's the dark and mysterious character who despises MiniForce for betraying him, even seeing a flashback of the Blue Ranger having to apprehend him years ago. Apparently he was apprehended under Commander Chen's orders, but we see later on that there's a bit more to this story and it gets spicy. So first of all, Ray is apparently a very well-known agent. Commander Chen speaks about him and Lucy was just like, oh yeah, we know him. Apparently he's like a proper special ops agent that only goes on the most dangerous of missions, which is fucking badass already. The commander then shows off Ray's mecha, also known as his Force Transbot, which already sounds cooler than Force Cars. It doesn't sound that cool anyway, Force Transbot, but cooler than Force Cars. It has a humanoid form, but then also has a hawk, wolf, shark and bat form, and that's like the coolest fucking thing in this show so far, maybe in general. They've all got their little wagons that turn in. No, he's got one mech that has 5 different traversal forms. That is peak. And we later learn that the Blue Ranger that banished him was actually Pascal doing his shapeshifting that he did right back in episode 1 and 2. The team eventually get Ray on his side as the official 5th MiniForce Ranger, but he still kind of works as like the lone wolf, like 6th Ranger, where he doesn't really join the team in like the base or nothing. He's off doing his own little side quests and then he shows up when he's really needed. We also get to see an evolution for the Force Cars. First we see duo combinations where they create little Megazords with a pink and red combination and a yellow and blue combination. Then in the season 1 finale we get the full Megazord with all 4 cars combined, and I'll be honest, it looks trash. It looks awful, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. Season 2 is relatively the same in terms of story and episode by episode beats, but it does also have some really cool moments as well. There's an entire episode that's focused on an alien called Jody who has a striking resemblance to Ultraman, which I guess is another cool little Toki reference. Also, something I've noticed a lot in Season 2, but it happened in Season 1 as well, is that they'll be around the briefing table and Commander Chen will be telling them about what the mission is for the day, and every time without fail somebody goes, who could have done something like this? And then dramatically somebody will go, Pascal. As if it's not Pascal every single time. What are we doing? We're wasting time. Just tell them the location and go. Season 2 for the most part is then kind of samey until the finale, which is fucking insane. MiniForce are fighting with a super powered up Pascal who fucks them up so badly, they demorph and fall to the ground. He then summons the Dark Power, growing into a giant lava-filled dragon kaiju. He goes off and he's ready to destroy the world, and a bunch of other smaller animals gather around MiniForce who are dead. And I don't mean like, oh, they're dead. They died. They are dead. Even iPass returns for the first time in like 40 episodes. They're all crying until we get a full-on Power Rangers Mystic Force moment where they all start praying and they get resurrected via a magical peacock god. Nuts! This peacock shows up somewhere earlier as well, but like, it doesn't really have a big role. The team then morph, reunite with Ray, who's just been chilling, I guess. They get into their Force cars. And it would have been cool if at this point, Hawk returned again, just for that extra firepower. We know he's still out there in the world. If he had just come back to give him a helping hand, would have been kind of cool. I guess it was fine. They create the Megazord, and Ray is in his multi-transformer, but they're still no match for Pascal's ultimate evolution. Their last hope is to take on as much power as Pascal throws at them, getting close enough to him that when the Force cars get destroyed, he gets destroyed with them. And they do that. They all blow up, except Pascal kind of shrinks down to his normal size, not even the Ranger size, but his like little animal form, and just sort of scurries off. Meanwhile, the Force cars are completely obliterated. And then, of course, with the power of friendship, or rather the internal mechanisms of the Force cars, they all start forming back together and everyone's fine. We end the episode with the team being told they can stay at the house they're in alongside Susie and Louie. They kind of play it off as if they were agents that move about, and then once their mission in this town was done, they'd move to a different house. They don't say that at any point in the show. Please, if you've watched the show as well, correct me if I'm wrong, correct me if I've missed that. I tried to go back to check. There's a lot of episodes. There's like 52 episodes of just regular MiniForce. There's 26 episodes in each. But they've just randomly pulled this plot detail out in the finale, and they're meant to make us feel grateful that they get to stay with their family, but it was never mentioned that they wouldn't be able to stay with their family to begin with. But then again, the target audience for this are 4-year-olds. So doesn't matter. But then just before the episode ends, we're teased a brand new villain. But that was MiniForce Seasons 1 and 2 in a nutshell. What happened to Hawk? One badass episode, one of the coolest Rangers we fucking saw, never saw him again. I hope he's in MiniForce X because I want to see more of that character. I love Ray. I think he's gotta be one of the coolest, probably even cooler than Hawk, let's be honest. This lone wolf ranger, sort of like dark, mysterious, keeps to himself, and then comes in with that extra firepower. And that mech, that 5-way transforming mech, peak, bro, peak, bro. My window's wide open, by the way, and I just shouted that. So if anybody outside wants to know, watch MiniForce. I do like Sammy as well, the Red Ranger. The sort of deep voice on the cute character trope really came in clutch there. Kind of reminded me of Skipper from Penguins of Madagascar, or Madagascar singular. Lucy and Max, I feel like nothing really happened with them. There's nothing that I think back and I'm like, oh yeah, they were good characters. Of course, Volt was sort of the leader, so he kind of had a part to play. And obviously, I know I didn't do each episode in depth in this. I honestly just did the main points of the show and the story, and Lucy and Max barely showed up. Neither did Volt, really. It was weird. There is an episode where Sammy becomes evil, is under brainwashing circumstances, but it's like a two-parter, but it only happens in one part of the two-parter, and it's kind of forgettable. But this is a show that I was definitely impressed with the evolution of it. I honestly thought it would be episode to episode, different story, no correlation, especially since the episodes are only 10 minutes long. This is a show I'd happily let my kids watch, especially if I wanted to sort of soft launch them into the world of Power Rangers. It does have that Disney Junior feel in the B-plot, but then you have some badass Toki moments complete with henchins and mech battles. Honestly, I'm interested to see if this show gets any better. It's an hour-long movie that shows the events of the MiniForce being recruited and coming together to be a team for the first time. The movie opens seeing a MiniForce lab for the first time, as we usually only see their base inside the house that they live in. And we see a group of animal scientists that are trying to extract an element called alinium. But they're infiltrated by the Lizard Army, and lead scientist Dr. Jeremy has to give up the alinium. Now, the Lizard Army has a bit of a connection to the future TV show, or the past TV show that we're prequeling, because one of the main antagonists, Pascal, is a lizard, and presumably from this lizard army. The entire lab then blows up, seemingly killing everyone inside. We see a young rabbit at the scene who is Dr. Jeremy's daughter, called Anna, and of course she's absolutely devastated, especially after seeing her father's locket with a photo of the both of them in there surviving the explosion with a crack in it. Absolutely heartbreaking. However, if you guys didn't know, this is a Korean show that gets dubbed in English, and the English dub is really something.
Oh no, Daddy! My dad is
We then cut to the MiniForce HQ with an elders meeting taking place where Commander Chen from the show is giving a brief to other leaders of MiniForce and officially begin to found the MiniForce team as we know it. Because basically, MiniForce agents are rogue agents. They do things on their own in different locations, and there's never been an official team put together. And that's what this film's about. We get footage of each ranger training separately as Commander Chen explains their powers to the other leaders. And it's quite fun. It's kind of like what Fan4stick tried to do with the Fantastic Four. That didn't work at all. But this is cool. Seeing all the rangers off separately doing their own missions and just knowing like the proper Avengers type moment where they're all about to be recruited to be one team. Somehow Anna appears in a jet carrier and begs Commander Chen to let her join the mission and avenge her father. Commander Chen's very hesitant. She says that she's not properly trained, and she's like, I know I'm not trained, but I've been side by side with my father this entire time. I know MiniForce inside and out. And he's like, okay. And he takes her with her. We then cut to the Lizard Army's base where we see somebody who pretty much looks like Pascal, and I kind of thought he was to begin with, but this is a guy called Pacus. We see 2 thug bots and a gold-plated frontman called Zeus who is collecting these elements for a bigger plan. And just like the main guy in the show, he wants to take over the animal kingdom and then the world. Anna and Commander Chen then recruit Bolt, who, like everyone in the show, has a different voice actor in the English dub. However, he sounds nothing like the original version. Nothing like him at all. Bolt is very keen on staying because he gets to just lay around and do nothing. And that's until he lays eyes on Anna and wants to clap somebody. They did a bit in the original show where all the guys were obsessed with Ipas, who was like the black cat who was secretly like betraying them to be on Pascal's side. This is pretty much the same, but to like 10 times higher. They then go to pick up Sammy, and he also kind of wants to stick to his prior mission, not because he's being lazy, but because he feels like he has a duty to the people that he's serving, which kind of makes sense. And that is until Anna doesn't like woo him over, but just straight up rage baits him. She's like, I guess he's a coward. I could never be a part of a team, and he just kicks off.
You'll see a coward! I'll show you who the coward is!
Max is busy getting buff, and surprise, surprise, he also wants no part in it, followed by Lucy, who is helping bandage an injured animal, and she doesn't say no, but she is also just as shocked as the rest of the team. And I do think it's cool that this is like the first team that's ever existed in MiniForce, and that they're all solo operatives. It makes Ray and Hawk's sort of like roles in the original show a lot more like normal, and also I guess a lot cooler. Like Ray was like, Ray would work with the team. He was very much a lone operative. He was the lone wolf, sort of 6th ranger. I know he was number 5, but then Hawk was number 5. I don't know. It was weird. The commander then brings them to the base, and instantly they snap into it. Volt is still gooning over Anna, but he instantly sort of takes leadership in his pride. He's like, yeah, I'm ready to lead this team. Sammy, of course, is like, I don't know why he's the leader, but I guess I'll deal with it. And Max and Lucy, as much as I love them, they just chill in the background like usual. We then cut to them all suited up in a training room, including Anna in a white and red ranger suit. A little anticlimactic for their first team suit up in the film, but it's chill. Interestingly, we see the debut of the Force weapons in this scene, a huge part of the original show, and for what it's worth, not only 15 minutes into the film, I'm enjoying it. I love the attention to detail. I love that they're introducing us the Force weapons in this. Kind of sick. I don't know why they've not been using the Force weapons before, but I guess new technology. And whilst I am on the topic of attention to detail, I know I've already mentioned Volt's voice, but it's not selling it for me. Like, they've all got different voice actors, it seems. Sammy has still got a rather deep voice. Max has a generic male voice. Lucy has a generic female voice. But Volt went from a sort of slightly raspier, you know, still higher pitched voice, but like sounded like, I don't know, I guess sounded like a teen in a way. And now he just sounds like a 30-year-old woman pretending to be an 8-year-old boy.
We'll attack him with all of our firepower.
Okay, I'll go first. Force guns, transform!
It's not cutting it. Now Anna, who is somehow a MiniForce veteran, despite apparently only having witnessed MiniForce through her dad, is teaching them about the Force weapons and teaching them how to work as a team. And I love the use of their powers in this scene. Whilst not by a lot, it does have a slightly higher budget feel to it, and so far it hasn't lost the charm of the show. And just getting like a sort of refresher on all these guys' powers, I'm enjoying it, guys. I'm enjoying the MiniForce movie so far. Volt then ends up looking like this because he saved Anna and simped over her for far too long that he got finessed by a flying robot head. And what follows is an insanely weird scene where Volt pretends to be worse off than he is, to the point where Anna is like feeding him and like pampering him. Now I know this film was made for children, and I am not a child, but it's fucking weird. which is weird. But then he gets exposed and Anna just fucks him up. She's like, yep, no, this ain't cool. And good for her. Pop off, queen. But as Anna walks away, the team find her locket that she left behind, and they see the photo of her and her father with the crack in it, and they understand now what is in it for Anna, what's in the mission, and the mission becomes a lot more serious to them as well, and it really unites them as a team, where they realize we're not just doing this for us or the bigger picture. There's an individual story in all of these lives that we're saving, and that's the uniting moment. It was kind of nice. It was kind of cool. But then Commander Chen calls them to the emergency room, and they see that the Lizard Army is trying to steal something called the controlling cube, which is the sort of third ingredient to their like animal/human race wiping plan. It's kind of weird. So the Elinium is a big part of it. We see Zeus put the Elinium in a machine that already has like a green triangular element in it. That hasn't been mentioned, and spoiler alert, won't be mentioned. That's just something that exists there. But the controlling cube is the third part that goes with everything to combine it together so that whatever their plan is comes to fruition. So they track the controlling cube down to a human lab, and the MiniForce sneak in and try to steal it, or well, not steal it, but you know, get hold of it before the Lizard Army do, and they end up having to hide in a bin because there are humans about and they can't be seen. But unfortunately, the human was a janitor who then throws the bin down the garbage disposal, and the MiniForce pretty much end up in a Toy Story 3 situation. They're on this conveyor belt, and there are crushers and rollers and flames and the lot, and Max is knocked out completely. So not only do the team have to try and save themselves, but they have to deal with an unconscious Max and try to save him as well. They do so kind of with ease. It's all about timing and trying to figure out how they should run under certain things and whatever, until they are almost crushed by one of the crushers, and Lucy just uses her force field and it blocks them. And I just think Lucy could have activated her force field to begin with, and they could have cracked on. Again, children's show. But who would I be if I just let all that slide? Do you know what I mean? It was a stupid part of the film. Whilst fighting for their lives, the Lizard Army did take the cube, and now, finally, after like half an hour, the team finally decide to morph.
MiniForce, transform!
It's the exact same sequence from the show, but that was expected, and they call on their force cars. Obviously, the force cars are the giant mecha, and I'm making a mental note now that I really don't want to see the force cars combine in this film, because they've done so well so far, like keeping the continuity consistent, and they combined for the first time ever in the show. So if they combine in this film, it might tip me over the edge. The Parkas is already in their own sort of evil Megazord with the two thug bots, but they are no match for the Super Ranger MiniForce. It's the Super Ranger MiniForce, Ranger MiniForce. That theme song is so fucking bad, but I love it. The Lizard Army then starts using the Elinium and the controlling cube to become like just gods, and it's apparently an impenetrable power that is literally able to shut off 3 of the 4 force cars. Lucy, Sammy, and Max are just done for. Their force cars don't work anymore. Eventually, Bolt is able to do enough damage to their mecha that Parkas decides to show them they left an active bomb in the lab right next to a tied-up human being. This whimsical film took a sharp turn. I'll be honest, that is kind of morbid and grim, but it's fine, because what are we gonna do? Nothing, apparently. Commander Chen is like, look, our mission is to get that Elinium. That's the danger. Lives can be lost. We need that Elinium so that more lives aren't lost. Insane work from Commander Chen. Didn't realize he had the balls like that, but here we are. But then we have a young scientist screaming into the door because she is the daughter of the man that is tied up next to the bomb. And with that, Anna, who by the way is in command room, don't know why, she's a ranger. We've seen she's a ranger. For some reason, she's the guy in the chair. Don't know why, but she is. And she sees this. Obviously, this links very heavily to her and her father. And she commands Bolt, screw the Elinium, go stop the bomb, save the people. That's what's important. We don't trade lives. We don't let them die for more people. We save them and we save them. Awesome moment. Genuinely loved it. Bolt does exactly that. Force car transforms back into a car and he just fucking smashes through the doors. He just drives in. It is what it is. Commander Chen's like, hey, yo, bro, you shouldn't have done that. He's like, I don't care. Anna says she doesn't care. It's a race against time and it seems that the lab blew up, but Volt was able to save the father and daughter in time.
Hooray!
We are made to assume that the other scientists made it out of the building in time. If not, then they are dead. Just pausing the video to say thank you to the legends that are the channel patrons. And a special thank you to our Super Dino Mode patrons, Sarah Jane, Eric Lloyd, Sam James, and Joel Higgins. For just £3 per month, you can get early access to videos and get your names credited in them. The link to join is in the description below. The team celebrate and we cut to a somber moment where Anna and Volt are watching the sunset. They apologise for the earlier shenanigans and create a lifelong friendship. despite us never actually seeing Anna in the show. Back at the base, fears are growing as the Lizard Army still have the Elenium and controlling cube and plan to use it in a giant missile to destroy Amazon City, which is where they're all based, and it's where a lot of the animal species are based and the humans. Could I get through that sentence without stuttering? Jesus Christ. They have the coordinates of the Lizard base and plan a full-scale attack on the army whilst also preventing the missile from being launched. Now the plan commences and Sammy has to distract them by dressing up as a female pizza delivery person, and he's got to woo over the guards to distract them long enough that Bolt can sneak in. He sits and feeds them all pizza whilst Volt breaks into the base, quick morphs, and gets rid of every guard in his way. He just powers through them like a bowling ball. He navigates his way through a corridor of lasers and attempts to hack the computer system, but Pacus was expecting him. Due to this, they convert immediately to plan B, which is just attack. Just go guns blazing. Volt sweeps his way through an army of Lizard Rangers, and the entirety of MiniForce show up to combat the Lizard Army. Now, this is an incredibly cool scene and cool moment with all of the Lizard Army and all of MiniForce 1-to-1, but it sort of lacks the diversity of suits. They're all very much just sort of troops, so they're all wearing the same sort of silvery grey suits. And it's cool. And I get it. Like, you know, budget, it's easier to just duplicate the same suit over and over again. But we know that, like, Ray exists, and Hawk exists, and, you know, there's other MiniForce operatives out there that we know exist. So I don't understand why they're all the same sort of, you know, agents. It would have been cool to see, like, you know, even if it wasn't Ray and Hawk, but a Green Ranger, a Black Ranger, you know, a Purple Ranger, whatever. We do, however, see the actual MiniForce team face off with a giant lizard monster, using each of their individual abilities to assist each other. And they seem to be quite successful until a giant tank mecha shows up, piloted once again by Pacus. But this one is even bigger than the last, so of course they call on the Force cars. I do appreciate that they didn't give the Force cars an origin, as if they sort of have already been using them for all this time. Like, you know, whilst each Ranger was doing their own thing, they had access to their own Force cars. I do find it weird that the Force weapons were given an origin, and the fact they didn't have those before now. It makes you wonder what weapons they would use, but I liked that, you know, whilst they were operatives, they had access to Force cars as well. I think that's a cool way to, like, make the world still seem a bit more whole, and not everything was developed at this one point in time. What is cool, though, is that this movie does debut their final strike in the form of the Force Jet, where all the Rangers harness their power together to defeat the villain. Which, in case you need context for what the Force Jet is, it is basically a boomerang-like weapon that the blue Force car has, that when powered up by all four mechas can create the Force Flash and just slice through anything in his path. And it was completely fun and games until it does nothing to the tank mecha. That's when Anna chimes in and says that the Force bot weapon is on its way, giving the blue Force car an insane power-up, along with, I guess, a sort of auxiliary arm. With this, he's able to outmatch Pacus, and with one final strike, destroys the tank mech. Anna then rejoins the team en route to the missile where Zeus is preparing to launch it. They try to stop him, but they're too late, and the 5-minute timer begins. He gives a standard supervillain monologue about ruling over everyone, and then just starts to wipe out the entire team. It turns out that Zeus himself has absorbed the Elenium and is now unstoppable. Like, that is godlike power. It's insane. Until Volt has his Steve Rogers moment, and he just keeps getting back up. And he doesn't say he could do this all day, but you know that's what the man's thinking. Zeus then keeps firing at them until Anna jumps in the way of one of the blasts, saving the team and not leaving her in a good state. She gets knocked down and the team panic, but so does Zeus. He then starts crashing out and demorphs, revealing himself to be Anna's father, Dr. Jeremy, the bunny scientist from earlier in the film. When I tell you I've been taking this film so lightly, it is a low-budget kids film, but this plot twist genuinely set me fucking spiraling. I couldn't believe it. I was watching and typing away and making my notes, and my jaw dropped. Mainly because there was no, like, alluding to it. Usually with twists like this, there's some, like, hints throughout. No, there was no like, prologue to that. Insane. Fair play, MiniForce, New Heroes Rise. Fair play. You got me. Anna wakes up briefly and her dad speaks to her, begging her for forgiveness. Anna can't believe it. The team can't believe it. I can't believe it. Dr. Jeremy then reveals when he was trying to extract the Elenium, he realized how strong the power is and he got a bit of a kick out of it to begin with, and then it just started to corrupt his body entirely. But then the potential death of his daughter was enough to snap him out of it, which shows that love is stronger than anything. It's the Super Ranger MiniForce. The alarm bells start to ring as the missile begins to take off with just 1 minute until it wipes out the whole city. Anna then begs for Bolt to save everybody, to do something, whatever he can, as her dying wish. And Anna fucking dies. Insane. The team stay to help Anna and the doctor, and Volt races off in his force car in an attempt to stop the missile. Commander Chen follows pursuit in a jet, and the blue force car starts riding it like a green goblin glider. It is actually pretty fucking sick. Eventually they catch up to the missile and can tilt it up by 45 degrees, changing its direction and saving the city. And it was kind of a cool scene. Not only was the explosion in the sky as they like flew back towards camera pretty sick and very Tokusatsu, also they used the force jet on the blue force car as sort of like a jetpack, so it connects to his back for the first time and it can give him that extra bit of strength to tilt the missile up. It was kind of an awesome, it was an awesome scene. It was a great scene. Some could even say it was peak. It was a peak scene. Back at the base, the commander commends them and Anna returns. Turns out she didn't die. She just got Barbara Gordoned, you know, as a case of the old Oracle. They then set up the team's next assignment together in Blue Bell City, which is the town, the city that the show takes place in. Again, I'm loving the attention to continuity. I wouldn't have thought they would have cared. The movie then ends with Pascal locked away in prison and revealing that Pacus was his brother. Now he needs to avenge him, breaking off of his chains and setting the universe in motion for the TV show. Oh. So that was the MiniForce movie. Honestly, I can't say I didn't enjoy it. There was a lot of sort of campy brain rot to it, but there was some pretty sick action and some pretty decent story parts to it. I had a great time. There is an option on YouTube to watch this as 6 individual episodes instead of 1 movie, but I don't think this was a movie that was turned into 6 episodes. I think this was originally a mini, like, prequel series that was turned into a movie. It's just the way the pacing felt. It didn't feel exactly right, and if you watch the episodes, it's definitely cut up like a movie. I definitely don't think they made episodes and then merged them. Think along the lines they just decided to switch it up, but for what it's worth, it still works perfectly anyway. I also feel like rather than this being a MiniForce prequel film, it was very much a Volt prequel film. The story very much focused on him being the hero that Anna needed, and whilst that isn't a bad thing, I'd love to see more from the other team. Even in the show, I said that Volt and Sammy had the most going on, and Max and Lucy just kind of did things every now and again. However, I do feel like Lucy and Max were given more standout moments than Sammy in this film. I know he had that little pizza subplot, but in terms of the action, I feel like Sammy and Lucy ended up doing more. Maybe my memory's slightly jaded. I did watch this 2 days ago at this point, but that's what my notes say. I'm trusting my notes. Like I said, I love the attention to the continuity. I was saying that I thought the Pascal and Pacus looked the same, and that I thought Pacus could have been an earlier version of Pascal. Turns out they're brothers. Can't go wrong, you know, it's standard. I think Anna was cool, but I think they didn't know what to do with her. Like, first of all, it seemed like she had no training in MiniForce, and she was maybe going to become like a ranger at the end in a triumphant moment. Then it turns out that she's been an operative for this entire time and was qualified enough to train the rest of the team, even having her own suit, as we said. But then she didn't do a lot of fighting. Obviously, she sacrificed herself, and now she sort of was written off because she wasn't in MiniForce show. The suit was sick. I love the suit. I love the red and white combo. It did remind me of Griffin from season 2, which I know we only showed up once or twice, but that's probably just because of the color palette. I really liked the suit. The bunny features were cool. And overall, the plot of this film was solid, and I can't stress enough how my jaw genuinely dropped when Zeus was revealed to be Dr. Jeremy. Didn't see it coming. There was no allusion to it, and genuinely I was like, fuck. Fair play. I know, I mean, with every film having a Luke, I am your father type moment these days, I know, I didn't see it coming, and it made it that much more enjoyable for me. Honestly, I had a lot of comments to check out this film in the last video, which is why I decided to slip it in before MiniForce X, just so we can move along in continuity time, do you know what I mean? And honestly, I'm glad I did. You know, I said it in the last video, I'll say it again, MiniForce is something I would happily let my children watch. It is the perfect mix of the sort of like 2020s sort of brain rot that kids like to watch. I mean, it's not 2020s originally, I know it's like 2016. It's got that element in it, and then it's got sick Tokusatsu action, and I think it's a perfect gateway into like Super Sentai, Power Rangers, Kamen Rider, all of that fun stuff, and just superheroes in general. It was it's a fun time. MiniForce X might just be one of the most underrated action shows made for kids. On the surface, it looked like just another Power Rangers ripoff, but beneath the flashy transformations and giant robots was something much deeper. Yes, I'm finally talking about MiniForce X after an insane amount of requests. I'm going to break down the story, talk about my favourite parts, and then also conclude whether this is better than the original, which is what a lot of people seem to think. In case you're unfamiliar with MiniForce, it's a Korean animated show that focuses on 4 agents, or rangers, that fight back against superhuman threats. But they're actually animals. Small, talking animals. Volt the Squirrel, Sammy the Owl, Lucy the Fox, and Max the Beaver. The original 2 seasons, simply titled MiniForce, also introduced Ray, a solo operating Black Ranger, and Hawk, a Green Ranger that we saw for 1 episode and 1 episode only. Justice for Hawk. As we kick off episode 1, we enter a spaceship. Yep, no more Syndrome, no more Lizard Rangers, we have intergalactic threats now. Already, the show's getting a lot more serious than the original. Why do I even bother? So these are the Dan crew, consisting of Dante, Dancho, and their pseudo-leader, Kara. They're the main set of generals for a very ominous and yet to be revealed master called Xenos. And they're honestly what you'd expect from these type of villains. You know, they're the lackeys, you know, Team Rocket, the three-wheelers, you know, getting up to tomfoolery all while trying to be evil. The goal of the villains in the series is to extract negative energy from the people of Earth, setting up for something much bigger later on down the line. MiniForce very much has a villain of the week type formula, usually spanning 2 episodes at a time. And our first villain of the week is a music alien called U2. Samji did not like that they downloaded that album straight to their iTunes. That's, what can I say? And then we finally arrive at the family house, where the MiniForce are looking as lively as ever. Until they speak. Not only have they all been recast, which is fine, I guess, you know, this is the English dub, but Volt's voice is once again that of an 8-year-old boy. I talked about this during the movie video, but Volt's voice downgrade needs to be studied. He goes from a fearless leader to someone who's been on the job for just 5 seconds. With his voice alone, it's insane.
MiniForce, transform!
We are going to take down that scoundrel with 1 shot.
We have the standard B-plot taking place, Susie is studying for a test, and everybody is trying to help her in a weird and whimsical way. But then we get the introduction of a new character called Uncle Dory, Susie and Louie's uncle. And he might be the single most annoying character in this entire show. Just like with the first series, I'm not going to go too in depth with all the B-plots of this show, and it's not even like one of those, oh yeah, but this show wasn't made for you, it was made for kids, and like, I would have hated this guy as a kid. I just know I would have. I hated Argent as a kid. I hated this guy. So I know I would not have been a fan of Uncle Dory. Anyways, the aliens start attacking the city and extracting negative energy from the civilians, so the team must jump into action with their brand new Force Gems? Okay, so these aren't Force Gems, but instead X Selectors. A new and improved piece of technology which acts the same as their Force Gems, you know. It's a comms device and a changer. A morpher. They take their X-themed transport pods down to the base where Commander Chen returns. He gives them the lowdown on this new intergalactic threat and introduces them to the X discs, which converts their standard beast power into X power. Yeah, so this moment, this scene is the first time that they're getting introduced to the X powers. This is literally their first exposure to it, but obviously they already have the X selectors and these new X pods, like they're not the Bakugan ones anymore. So either the animators didn't have access to the old models to use before giving them the X ones, or they did and they just couldn't be arsed. Kind of weird, kind of lazy, kind of absolutely hilarious. But yes, they've now got these new and improved stronger powers for this stronger threat. They morph into action for the first time with their new X powers. The sequence is pretty much the same as the original, but the animation seems a lot smoother, and yo, I love the new suits. Don't get me wrong, I'll forever appreciate the original suits, and I do think I prefer them from a style standpoint, but these are undoubtedly a lot more tactical looking, while still also contributing to each ranger's unique motif. And with that all said, the theme song that plays in the background is 10 times better than the original. Like, not just instrumentally, but the guy can actually sing this time. The sequence ends with them morphed in a teleportation pod that zaps them to the scene, followed by a very satisfying roll call, ending with them posing in front of a giant X. And whilst what I just said sounds incredibly silly, it is actually kind of fire. Once in action, their superpowers are pretty much the same, if not just refined, but instead of their force weapons, they now have cross-X weapons. The same concept applies, you know, traversal weapons that can turn into different things, you know, a blaster, a sword, an axe, you get the idea. And let's not forget to talk about the locations. We're on a city rooftop now and not just a structureless desert. Don't get me wrong, the original had a bit of variety, but this is a step up. There's a standard battle where the villains inevitably retreat, setting up for their return in episode 2. And I don't understand why these shows aren't 13 22-minute episodes rather than 26 11-minute episodes. And like, it works all the same, you know, you still get the same story beats, but it's weird that they've split them up into more episodes but shorter episodes. Just thought that was kind of weird. Maybe it's an attention span thing, I don't know. And with episode 1 wrapped up, that was a solid start to the show. The first few minutes did worry me, you know, the intergalactic threat being a lot more menacing than the dollar store syndrome was cool, but like the jokes they were making, and then the introduction of Uncle Dory. Like, I didn't know if this was going down an even more childish route that, like, the original show was already at, you know. It intended to be a preschool show by all means, but I mean, the original series hit some older audiences almost, like, immediately after it aired. It was a lot. I won't lie. But the suits are already growing on me, I gotta be honest with you. Just like the first video, I'm not gonna go in depth on every episode, but I am gonna cover what I feel is most important to the story. In episode 2, we start seeing a little more of Master Xenos, but he's still not fully revealed. He gives U2 a second chance at attacking Earth, and he actually uses a news broadcast to extract negative energy that way. Kinda crazy how we can do that. Surely you'd do that to begin with, but clearly not. The team chase him down, and as he's getting away, they summon all new jetpacks. A fun addition, don't get me wrong, but it does bring these suits closer to Iron Man by the second. They end up in a construction site and work together to take him down, with the final strike actually coming from Max, being the first one to use one of the new X discs, specifically using Magma Bear Strike, which gives this insane, like, spirit animal looking attack where he just obliterates U2 with fire. It is sick. Not only is this great and a good sign of moments to come in the show, but one of my biggest critiques of the original series is that Lucy and Max just didn't really do anything. They left it all to Volt, Sammy, or Ray. So the fact that Max gets a moment to shine, being the first one to use this new X disc, I am here for it. Master Xenos then goes full Reader Repulsor and makes his monster grow. In the original series, they of course had Mechamons, which would either be piloted by the villain of the week or by Pascal. But in this, we straight up just got the alien that was in battle before grow into the size of a kaiju. And I think you guys know what that means. We're gonna summon the Force cars. Except they aren't Force cars in this. We actually have the MiniForce X machine, a giant truck that dispatches Force vehicles. Volt has a race car, Sammy has a jet, Lucy has also a race car, and then Max has a drill truck? A driller? A drill? And look, these are a lot cooler than the original Force cars, especially Sammy's jet. That is a cool looking mech. They transform into their battle modes and manage to take down U2. And look, if the CG hasn't necessarily improved, the animation and the 2D effects definitely have. I mean, look at some of this shit. Like, this looks great. Episode 3 starts with Volt scared of some impending doom, and it turns out the threat is actually a green monkey called Jackie. He absolutely idolizes Volt, and Lucy casually drops into conversation that Jackie is also a MiniForce agent, albeit a new one. They're watching a documentary about MiniForce and actually answers a question that I pondered in the original video, as to whether these animals can talk to each other but aren't actually communicating with the people of the world, and, you know, are just like, they just sort of understand each other on like a pet, like, owner relationship. But no, they can talk. They can talk with Susie and Louie and Dory, and they can just talk. An alien is sent to Earth called Liar, who can blow raspberries with a giant tongue on his chest, causing everybody affected by his powers to lie. It affects Jackie, but he ends up pranking Susie by sending a bunch of, like, food deliveries to her house. You know, not what they said the powers would do. That's not lying, that's just being, like, devious. When the team are summoned to the base, we actually see that iPass is working there as an Alpha 5 guy in the chair type character. Now, I don't know if this is actually iPass or whether they've just reused the model from the original show, but as far as I'm concerned, that's iPass. They head to the city to fight the alien and the henchmen, and Lucy gets to use the X disc with Fire Diamond Fox. First of all, hell of a moment. Absolute scenes. Fire Diamond Fox looks incredible. And what did I say? Lucy and Max being pushed to the sidelines in the original show. Now they're the first two to use the X discs. Everything's coming up Max and Lucy, do you know what I mean?
Everything's coming up Millhouse.
We continue into episode 4, where Jackie is still affected by Liar's powers, and he tricks the team to show up to a location where there's actually not any bad guys. But it does give us this impeccable shot. Alright, MiniForce X, I see you out there. Who give you the right to have this much of a saucy upgrade? That is a cinematic glow-up. Trouble is, they're caught by the police, believed to be criminals, and are arrested. Jackie is then somehow free of the brainwash, I guess it's only temporary, and attempts to save the team, and he does so. He's able to land on the police car that they're locked in, and they can escape through the back. And I want to point out, he hasn't morphed once. They made a point to tell us that he's a ranger. Seems like a bit of a Chekhov's gun, but he's not yet, I guess. The team save the day as usual, but man, I'm getting annoyed at Jackie already. What are you doing introducing Uncle Dory and Jackie and deciding, you know what, we're gonna make these the most annoying characters in television history? I think I'd take Victor and Monty over Dory. Oh, actually, well, would I? I don't know, actually. And let's not act like I haven't noticed that Ray isn't around. Yeah, I've noticed. Where's my boy? Episode 5 is nothing to write home about, but the villain is borderline Kamen Rider build, so that's fun. Jumping over to episode 9, we get a villain that turns Max into a baby. Doesn't affect the larger story at all, but how adorable is this? Where's the capitalization? Huh? Why have I had to see Baby Groot and Baby Yoda for the last couple of years? Where's Baby Max? And look at him piloting the Force vehicles. That's even better. Now, the story that spans episode 15 and 16 is one of the most interesting ones so far because it's how the Dan crew met Master Xenos. They were a team of regular villainous adventurers who came across a prison containing Xenos. He was locked away for trying to destroy the universe, and he persuades them to break him free and work for him. The episode kind of follows Kara having a bit of an identity crisis, not really knowing her true worth, but inevitably she ends up rejoining the team and there's no issue. More thoughts on the Dan crew later on, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of enjoying their presence in this show. Now, we get to a peculiar set of episodes with episodes 17 and episodes 18. See, there's a teacher at Susie's school that Lucy has a crush on, but this teacher also has an action figure of the pink MiniForce Ranger that he carries around with him. Now, nothing wrong with a grown man collecting some toys, especially not MiniForce toys. I'm in a glass house, I can't throw any stones. But the story follows this weird scenario where Lucy is so distracted by her crush that Commander Chen sets them up on a date where Lucy is in suit the whole time pretending to be a human. Which is something in itself. Whenever we saw Pascal interact with Nine in the original show, Nine was like the size of a regular human and Pascal was small, you know, MiniForce, and he was the same size as the other MiniForce Rangers. And I thought that was the implication, that they're still small even when they're morphed. But in this, she's regular height. So they've just retconned that entire concept of them being a small fighting force. And now they're just regular size. And it's fine. It looks cool. It looks great. It can lend itself to most stories down the line. Maybe that's a result of the X powers. I don't know. That was a weird thing to do, I think. And putting her on a date with a teacher was a weird thing to do as well, let's be real. What's really important about this episode, though, is that they gain a new X disc that can only be operated with all four of them combining their powers. Stereotypically named the Super X disc, they use it against an alien that looks like a Mikado stick. And listen, silly alien aside, the Super X disc final strike is hot. It summons the Solar Phoenix and obliterates the alien. Of course, it then grows giant, but Lucy gets this moment where she gets to go absolutely berserk, like full-on Super Saiyan, starts glowing pink, all in order to sort of protect the teacher that she had a crush on. And in her Force vehicle, takes down the alien single-handedly. Hop off, Queen. And so what if you're in love with a man that has your action figure? You're fine. His name is Mr. Roy, by the way. And it's not entirely relevant, but with a name like Mr. Roy, I feel like it is. We get to episode 19, and Susie, Louie, and Dory are debating over who is the best MiniForce Ranger. They pick everybody other than Blue, which sends Volt crashing out until they come to the conclusion the best MiniForce Ranger is the Black Ranger. Ray mentioned, Return of the King. Finally, after 19 episodes, we're acknowledging him. We see flashes of him really embodying like a real Batman-esque character, this time also fitted with a brand new X suit. The team are caught and sent to another dimension, which is what prompts Ray's return. Not only aura farming his way through life, but facing off against an alien called Dark Knight. A knight that rides a mechanical horse. This is peak. Jen and iPass tried to figure out how to save the team from the Dark Dimension. Rita Repulsa's calling, she wants her royalties. So Ray and Dark Knight meet up at midnight for a duel. Horse v bike. Like, pure aura farming. There's no other way you can describe it. Dark Knight is able to use portals to outpace Ray, but does my boy back down? Damn right he doesn't. He locks the hell in and starts dodging all of the attacks, and then pulls out an X-disc of his own, summoning Dark Jaguar. He absolutely obliterates Dark Knight and saves the entire team. Ray's that guy. Ray is that guy. Of course, Dark Knight grows, but Ray calls on his Force X machine, starting as a Falcon, then turning into a car, then a fighter mech. Back at it again with his multi-action Zord. The fight is the same at this point. Portals are used, Ray is too cool for school, and
I am the darkness that protects the light, the slayer of darkness, in the shadows of the light.
just give me a Ray spin-off show at this point. Do you know what I mean? Let me see this man up to his tricks. The best agent, the best ranger. Don't at me about it. And of course, we can't have our cake and eat it too. Ray does then leave back on his solo adventures, hopefully to return, but that was some episode. God damn! Now, during episodes 21 and 22, the villain is a giant T-Rex mecha. Well, this mecha is able to destroy the individual X vehicles, and the X machine carrier literally has to retrieve them and bring them to safety. In episode 22, a bunch of negative energy is being gathered, and the team are no match for the T-Rex. Enter Dr. Wright. Dr. Wright is the mad scientist between the X machines, the X discs, X, he's that guy. And he knows how to make the X vehicles even stronger, revealing a design for the Force X Tron. A 500% increase in power, yes, the Megazord. The team act surprised by this, even though their old Force cars could do the same thing. Anyway, despite it not being 100% finished, they get the green light to use it, and they go back out in the battlefield and form the Force X Tron. Honestly, so much better than the original one. Like, it's not even a competition. The connections aren't bulky. The big ass X on the front of it is fire and reminds me of Cam's Green Samurai Zord, and the cockpit looks great. I mean, overall, this shit's awesome. The mecha has a bunch of tricks that correlate to each of the Ranger's separate Zord parts, and takes no damage against the T-Rex's attacks. The final weapon is the Force X Blaster. It's unfinished, but they must risk destruction if it means destroying the T-Rex too. As we enter the big sort of finale story of Season 1, we've got an alien called Destrong who can duplicate things, creating evil clones of the MiniForce. Whilst the team are preoccupied with the clones, the Dan crew unleash their own new mecha called Danbot Z. It harnesses an insane amount of negative energy, and then when the Force X-Tron confronts it, Danbot Z straight up destroys it. The best that the CG has looked in this entire show is this moment of destruction. They retreat and are knackered, with Dr. Wright saying the mecha can be repaired, but they may never be able to use the final strike ever again. But the battle isn't over, because eventually, Master Xenos reveals himself, teleporting to Earth, having extracted enough negative energy to take them on solo. I know I don't really know how to depict this properly through a video essay, but at this point in time, Master Xenos is the shit. He is the guy. He's got all of the power, and it's so weird because we've only seen him as this dark, shadowy figure that's just been giving orders, but we've gone from 0 to 100 in 5 seconds. He is the guy right now. Just when it seems like the team are overpowered, Ray returns. So in the season finale, we have Ray going 1v1 with Xenos, but he gets his ass handed to him on a plate. But that doesn't mean anyone is backing down. The team think about everyone they know, everyone they love, and that they have one mission, which is to save this entire planet. The Super X disc is used, but it does nothing to Xenos, other than a small crack forming on his mask. At this point, he calls on Destrong once again to take over, along with Danbot Z. Ray joins the team in calling for their mechas, starting a 2v2 battle. Ray manages to destroy Danbot Z, and the Dan crew straight up get team rocketed into the sky. However, Destrong is still far too powerful, and the Force X-Tron is losing power. Ray keeps fighting back, but Destrong ends up turning into an even more powerful monster. The team are out of options, so they gather enough energy to go into overdrive mode, and with their one mission, risk every inch of their lives, even with Sammy turning to Volt and saying, you know what, you are a true leader. They activate the X boomerang from the X on their chest, destroying the Force X-Tron, but also the mutated alien. And with the day saved, we close out on Season 1 of MiniForce X. So before we get on to Season 2, wow. A lot happened, and I barely touched on the B-plots of these episodes. We have new powers, new mechas, and a new alien threat, but the show still very much follows from the original. Main team of 4, Commander Chen in the office, and then Ray being the lone wolf 6th Ranger. So far, I am loving it. The original show really grew on me anyway, but this feels like a step up in every way, other than Volt's voice. But again, we'll let it slide. Master Xenos is a far more interesting character than 9, and whilst the Dan crew are mainly comic relief, they're definitely up there rivaling with sort of Pascal on the sort of leading general of the evil guys. There's not been a lot of character development. I mean, neither was there in the first show, to be fair, but I did like that moment of Sammy finally appreciating Volt as a leader. Again, New Heroes Rise definitely showed that from Volt, but I guess I don't know what the canon is. That was the prequel to the first series, so maybe there's some grey areas there. And also, I've only very lightly touched on it, but there's been a running gag throughout this show that nobody likes the Blue Ranger, which keeps sending Volt spiraling. There's the conversation in Ray's first episode where they're talking about who's the best Ranger, and they don't say Blue. There's a kid who really doesn't like the Blue Ranger. Everybody there's no love for the Blue Ranger, and I don't understand why. He's the leader of the team. He was the coolest in the original show, but they have really just sort of flipped his story, and he's just been nerfed. I don't understand why. Anyway, let's see what this show can do in its second season, MiniForce X Pentatron. Yep, we got a subtitle going into this next one. We pick up immediately after the events of Season 1 with the Force X-Tron undergoing serious repairs. Meanwhile, in space, we're introduced to a brand new general named Zord, right-hand man of Xenos and now the boss of the Dan crew. We're gonna have to be careful now referring to this guy as Zord and then referring to these as Zords. I'll see how that goes. The villain of the week in episode 1 is arguably the coolest alien we've seen so far, the Doodler. His powers? He doodles on things.
You've done doodles.
With this new season, we get a new power-up called Attack Mode. It's like a little device that can turn into electric fists, a storm boomerang, a gigantic punch, and amazing shield. It's a fun addition to their arsenal and lends itself to more unique fight scenes rather than just what they usually do with the cross weapons. My personal favourites are Max's gigantic punch gauntlets and Sammy's boomerang. The Doodler eventually grows and we get another set of mechas, the Force Penta X machines. Really stretching these names out. For starters, the carrier has a flight formation and the vehicles become more construction based, with Sammy's transitioning from a jet to a helicopter. Honestly, I think I prefer the original X machines, but I still prefer these to like the original series Force cars that we had. Episodes 5 and 6 see the bad guys targeting Volt specifically, knowing that he's the leader of the team and turning him evil against the team. The monster of the week to do this is the Arachnid Alien Spider. No joke. That's his name. He's a green, part spider, part scorpion, part robot. I don't know where this is. Jackie returns, and it's worth noting that since his debut, Jackie hasn't really remained present for all of it. He like disappears for a couple of episodes at a time, comes back for a little cameo role, disappears again, returns. It's hard to tell whether he's meant to be a main character or not, but anyway, he really wants Volt to mentor him and to train him to be a better MiniForce agent, and Volt is kind of fed up of his antics. So he sends him on a mission, or like on a training quest, that isn't actually real, but sending him to this location gets him really injured. His guilt is used to the alien's advantage, and Volt is successfully brainwashed by a chip on his neck, and he sweeps up the rest of the team. As Volt runs rampant through the city, the team are at the base without a plan to save him. And see, the problem with Volt is that out of all of their superpowers, he's the one who's really fast, so despite them being strong, being able to jump really high and all that, they can't keep up with his speed. Which is when Jackie steps forward and says, look, he's not as fast as Volt, but his powers are also some form of super speed, and he could maybe keep up, at least to a certain degree. We return to the scene where Volt is destroying everything, and the team show up with Jackie as the Green Ranger. What do you mean? I mean, like, we were told he was a ranger when he was introduced, and he's green, you know, duh. But revealing him like this is crazy. Like, give the man a morphin sequence at least. Why is it always the Green Rangers getting done dirty? Justice for Hawk. Volt outruns them all, and all they really want to do is protect Jackie at this point, but he knocks them all down. Jackie tries to talk to Volt, try and snap him out of it, but it doesn't work, and he keeps attacking him, but no matter what happens, Jackie keeps getting back up. Saying that whilst there wasn't a direct mentorship, he did learn everything about being a good MiniForce Ranger from Volt because he's idolized him for so long. Whilst it did eventually seem like the power of love and friendship was going to break him free, it was actually just a distraction so that Jackie could get close enough to remove the chip from the back of his neck. And then Jackie dies. Not really. MiniForce loves to do this death fake out. They do it throughout all of the first season, all of the first show, and a lot through this, you'll see. After Volt solos the spider alien, they call on their robos to finish the job. Back at the house, Jackie is in fact alive and recovering well, but if this is another case of a Green Ranger that only shows up once, I'm gonna be fuming. Episodes 9 and 10 show MiniForce on a game show where Volt and Jackie get turned to stone, and Lucy needs to get all of the right answers in order to free them. Why is this relevant to the story, you ask? Well, because it's Ray's Pentatron debut. The episode also introduces a new Super X disc in the form of Crystal Dragon. The full team combo is pretty sick, and overall, I'm loving these X discs and Super X discs. I think so far, they're like one of the best new additions into the show. Now, in episode 11, we get another new MiniForce Ranger. It definitely seems that Jackie is out of the game again, but there's this new navy kind of black ranger, not as cool as Ray, of course, and he's very material. Like if MiniForce took place in like the world of the boys, you know, like not necessarily that he's evil, but it's very much showy. He very much is aware that he's in the public eye, and he kind of likes that. Like Danger Duck in Lunatics Unleashed. Did anybody else see that video I posted? That was a weird one. This is Rio, a millionaire scientist cat who is considered to be the Onyx or Cobalt Ranger. Now, in everything I found online, his name is spelled Leo, but they pronounce it in the English dub as Rio, so I'm gonna go with Rio for now, but I suppose the name is up for debate. And also, was Cobalt necessary? Like, we've already got a Black Ranger, why did we need to have a Ranger so close to black? Like, could have had a Purple Ranger, could have had an Orange Ranger, a White Ranger even? No. Cobalt. The team want him to join as an official member, but he says he'd rather work alone. And you know what? I'm angry at this. Because look at this. This is the box that my Ray figure came in, right? As I said earlier, I've got Ray, I've ordered all of these, and these are the MiniForce X figures. You can get Jackie, and you can get Rio. Can't get Hawk anywhere on this. Neither can you get, I forget her name, but the bunny rabbit from the movie. He better be a decent enough character to be infringing on Ray so much. And I don't know. Also, let me know in the comments, should I get the MiniForce X figures? They're going to be a lot more expensive than the originals. Anyway, after some time, Ryo does join the team as a full-time member. He's not as full-time as the main four, but he's around a lot more frequently than Ray is, and especially Jackie. And he actually gifts them some new weapons as well, along with their Cross-X weapon. They've got like these dual pistols that can also connect into like a sword and into a bigger blaster. It's kind of the same as the Cross-X weapons, but it's a bit more, it's got a few more abilities to it, I guess. Because yeah, Ryo is not only an agent, but like I said, he's a mad scientist. He has worked on a bunch of MiniForce products, so the chances are if there's a piece of tech that they have, he helped work on them. And whilst I have beefed this character so far, he has definitely got the best like animal appearance. He looks sick, and his robo is a tank. Now this is peak. Honestly, I love the aesthetic of this guy. During episode 15, we get a slight glimpse of the Force Pentatron Megazord, but they kind of scuff the transformation sequence. But eventually, they get it right, and we have a brand new Megazord formation, officially with Ryo as part of the combination, so he's officially part of the main team. A few things to note is that Ryo's Penta X-Bot does get a sort of transformation sequence, but he is still yet to have a morphing sequence. Weird they'd give him one but not the other, but that's chill for now. As for the new Megazord, I really do like it, but it's probably my second favorite so far, with the first MiniForce X-Tron being my favorite one, and then I think anything's gonna beat the one from the original show. I don't mean to keep slandering it, but it is just cars stacked on top of each other. And the cockpit inside is incredible. If there's one thing this show is doing right, it is sick cockpit designs. I don't know why they stick out to me so much, but it looks really cool. In episode 17, not a lot happens, but Ryo does get a spot in the morphing sequence and roll call, so a bit of redemption's going on here. Now, starting with episode 20, we begin entering the real final arc of MiniForce X. The Dan crew are doing their normal villainous shenanigans when they actually get caught and end up in MiniForce custody. They get interrogated by Commander Chen to try and learn more about the aliens, but Zord sends down an alien called M-Bomber with enhanced extraction abilities, and uses all the energy he's absorbed to send a nuclear-scale bomb to the MiniForce headquarters. The team feel helpless at this point, so Volt tries to chase it and beat it to the headquarters with his jetpack. He gets to the Dan crew in time and is able to help them escape before the building is destroyed. As for Chen and I-Pass, well, they actually sent the Dan crew to an old training facility, so the main headquarters is completely fine. It was like a double bluff, it was great. Now, of course, the Dan crew are pissed that Xenos and Zod would portray them like that and try to kill them, so they do a full 180 on the villains and join MiniForce with people as insider knowledge. We find out that the machine storing all of the negative energy is almost at maximum capacity, and that Zod actually plans to steal some from Xenos so that he can rule over. The team set a course for outer space and plan to attack Xenos and Zod on their ship. The X-Carrier is used as a spaceship, and the 5 main MiniForce Rangers plus the Dan crew are strapped in and ready to go. Ryo is the module pilot for this, and he's a little bit cocky about it, which makes for some cool interactions. The character is a bit of a douchebag, but I'm warming up to him. He's a cool member. And there's a slight pause in the action for this gorgeous shot where they look back over at Earth. Honestly, MiniForce X has some sauce to it. It's like they actually hired a DP for this. They were like, okay, you guys are doing the animation, let me just tell you how to make this look good. Xenos detects their presence, and robots are sent to attack them. The Penta X-Bots are detached to fight while the Dan crew stay in the carrier. Honestly, I love this team up. I know I've not spoken too much about the Dan crew prior to now, and it's mainly because after you viewed like the first little story about them, each episode is pretty samey. There's nothing too much that goes on, and I've only really brought them up when they've done something that's affected the story. But in this final arc, the writers just decided to lock in, and these guys are becoming some of my favorite characters in this show. The Megazord is inevitably formed and wipes out the enemy bots, and the team finally land inside Xenos' ship. More henchmen begin to attack, and the Dan crew help fight them off. There's this great corridor fight scene with the two teams working together before getting to the end and finally confronting Xenos. But when they get there, they find out Xenos is dying. Zod has extracted all the remaining negative energy from Xenos and seeks to destroy everyone. A fight then breaks out between MiniForce and Zod, which I guess you could now call Megazord. Anyway, Kara taunts Zod for not knowing how to control his power, saying he's never got his hands dirty and always makes other people fight for him. And that's when the team summon a Super X disc and use Earth Dragon to defeat Zod. And all seems well until Xenos rises again. He knew the Dan crew would betray them, and he just wanted to see the tomfoolery play out before granting Zod even more power, having him grow to the size of the Robos. Like, he's a kaiju now. And they then have an all-out mech battle inside of Xenos' ship. Like, if that doesn't show you the scale of it, then I don't know what does. They manage to destroy Zod once and for all, but Xenos absorbs all of the remaining negative energy, leaving the ship and activating its self-destruction. And we don't exactly know if the team managed to escape, but Xenos heads to Earth for full-blown annihilation. On Earth, the full MiniForce army awaits, but they are no match for Xenos' supreme power. Okay, so we're about to enter the final 2 episodes of MiniForce X, and before we do that, I just wanted to take a minute to talk about how incredible this has been so far. The first show's finale doesn't compare to the stakes of this one, and we haven't even gotten to the actual end yet. The storytelling has been great despite most of it just being episodic, and whilst I can't wait to see how this ends, I really don't want it to end. But all good things, of course, must come to an end, so with that said, let's check out episodes 25 and 26 of MiniForce X, Pentatron. Xenos makes it to Earth and straight away is blowing up cars with innocent people in them. He proceeds to extract negative energy and flies to a nearby news helicopter and insists his message is broadcast. We see Susie and her family watching television, funnily enough watching Moncart, which is another show created by Sam G Entertainment. Fun little reference, and if anybody wants me to do a video on Moncart one day, let me know in the comments. An emergency news broadcast takes over as Xenos declares he's arrived to see their destruction as he blows more shit up. People all around the world think that the MiniForce is gone, and Chen asks I pass. Yes, officially calling her I pass, theory confirmed. He asks whether she has had any signal, any communication, any sign of life from the main MiniForce team, to which she says she doesn't. Jackie truly believes there's no way that the team are gone, but bro, you can morph still. You've still got the powers, you go out, you can help them! Xenos then approaches an old man in the street who's apparently got no negative energy, and then this exchange happens.
Are you not afraid of death?
The fear of death does not change anything.
Damn, bro. Fairs. That man has seen enough in his day. Just as Xenos is about to kill him, Volt swoops in and kicks him away, followed by the rest of the team and the Dan crew. And now they're the ones who are farming. Look at them on that ledge. Xenos strikes at them first, which prompts the team to summon their double sword guns, doing everything they can to damage Xenos. Of course, as we know, he is far too strong for them, but that's when Ryu contacts Master Chen and asks for the super rare X disc. No one else on the team knew this existed. Ryu only did because he helped develop it, but then Dr. Wright says that this needs charging time and they could lose their lives just by using it. Regardless, Commander Chen gives them the green light to use the disc, but Dr. Wright says it can't be transported to them like the other discs, and instead it needs to be physically delivered to them. They say that's fine, and until then all they have to do is hold off Xenos. Now, I'd say this is the perfect opportunity for Jackie to become the Grid Ranger again and hand deliver it to them. But I'm going to let it slide because Ray's the one to do it. Ray returns on his bike with the case. He throws him the case from his bike, but Xenos gets a hold of it. He knocks Ray off his bike, and Xenos disintegrates the entire case. Ray goes 1v1 with Xenos and ends up losing when Jackie shows up as the Green Ranger again with the X disc, the real super rare X disc in the case, proving this entire time the one Ray had was just a decoy, a distraction. Oh my god, genuinely, when I'm watching this show, I'm very much digesting it as a fact that I'm enjoying this show to a degree, but I'm also writing a video on it. I was borderline applauding when this happened. I've been saying all this time, they're giving us these MiniForce Rangers that barely show up. Hawk only showed up once, and I was sure that Jackie was only showing up once as well, only for him to return side by side with Ray in the final episode, where we have all 7 Rangers in one place. Oh, the main team all take a disc each whilst Ray and Jackie battle with Xenos. The team activates the disc and gathers the energy they require. Ray and Jackie keep fighting, and Jackie even sacrifices himself for the team when Xenos was about to destroy them mid-charging of the discs. Ray takes Jackie to safety, and finally the disc summons Gold Ultra Dragon, which also embodies the whole team and finesses Xenos into the ground. Celebrations are heard around the world until Xenos rises once more, growing giant and becoming this beast. Now, in the final episode, HQ have no idea the extent of Xenos' power and they seem out of options. The team call on their Penta Xbox and all attack Xenos at once. The robot's powers are depleting by the hit and nothing is damaging Xenos in the slightest. The negative energy has made him invincible and the team are starting to realize what sort of position they're in. They combine their bots to establish as much power as they can, but that is also no use. Whilst they're all down, Danbot Z returns. The lackeys have returned in their repaired mecha and Ray returns in his X-Bot. And Commander Chen then swoops in on the comms, saying reinforcements are en route. And those reinforcements are the original Force X-Bots from Season 1 of MiniForce X. The music's ramping up at this point and I'm getting chills, as 2 seasons worth of X-Bots are coming together as one. Xenos is obviously still too powerful and the people of the city begin to cry, with more negative energy being extracted. And now the team are almost about to give up, until Susie appears in the street. And look, she is silly for this, right? But what she does do is prompt the entire city to have hope all chanting "Go, MiniForce, go." There's so much unity amongst the city that positive energy gets extracted, countering the negative energy and fighting back against Xenos. Then both sets of Force bots combine, and all 4 mechas, including Rey and the Dan crew, give it all they have against Xenos, sending him into the sky as he explodes over the rooftops. MiniForce have done it. Insane. MiniForce reunite with the Dan crew, who said they're done being space pirates and they're actually going to go and open a cookie shop. The crew then return to their ship and take off, hoping that one day they can reunite with MiniForce once more. We return to the house where the team are goofing around and having fun, being monitored by Rio. He says that a true hero always prepares for any new danger coming his way, as a hologram opens up on his wristwatch, revealing a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And that is MiniForce X. Where to begin? Honestly, what an incredible show, and it's definitely made for kids. There's no argument about that, but the step up in quality from the first show to this one is insane. This was better than a lot of Power Ranger shows, and especially other shows alike that I watched as a kid. The team felt even more united than they once were, and it felt like everyone had an even split of the attention. A beautiful justice story for Lucy and Max. I've already stated my opinions on Rey. I love him, and they even play into it in the show as to the fact that he disappears and reappears. Like, the characters are self-aware of it as well. Whilst he got on my nerves to begin with, Rio was a pretty great character, being more of a veteran agent that had been revealed to have developed a lot of the new X technology. Jackie as a character, I was never a fan of, but I would have put money on the fact that he was not coming back as the Green Ranger after that one episode appearance, and he did. Not only did he become the Green Ranger again, it was in a crucial moment he sacrificed his life, and just getting to see him fight alongside Rey, that was sick. Master Xenos was fantastic and much better than 9 in my opinion, though I wish he had like more of a story, or at least more of a backstory. Like, the reason he wanted all of the negative energy was to rule over the universe, but I wish there was like a personal story to that. I do think I preferred Pascal in the first series to Zord in this series, but the power sort of ladder that went on between Xenos, Zord and the Dan crew, I did really enjoy that. That made for some great moments, especially with the Dan crew, who had the redemption of the century. They really felt like your standard lackeys to begin with, but the way they were given an actual development arc toward the end of the show, resulting in them joining the team and defeating Xenos, was perfect. I just wish we got a couple more interesting stories with them scattered throughout the show. Like, I get what their purpose was. They were the comic relief villains. They were the ones to laugh at when MiniForce won. But it started to get serious towards the end, and especially with the two guys of the Dan crew. They were always the funnier ones, the more sort of sillier ones. Bakara was head screwed on. She was a great character. The powers, weapons, and mechas were a huge upgrade in the show, and honestly, it really felt like there was a shift in the writers, going from a beat-to-beat, episode-to-episode story to a more respected action show with an overarching story that links all the characters together. The old mechas getting brought back in the final episode, having literally none of their tech work against Xenos, with his only demise being a consequence of his own hunger for power. That shit wasn't going on in the original show. Not a chance. They were doing that with brute force and the power of love. Like I said in my previous videos, the B-plots were the real sort of brain rot of these stories. There was nothing of actual substance to them, minus, I guess, the who Lucy, Mr. Roy subplot. And originally I was going to say if you took those out, then MiniForce X would be one of the most kick-ass like action shows for kids these days. But I also think those B-plots are what make it MiniForce. You know, it is meant to be for that even younger generation, possibly even younger than Power Rangers. But when they got to the action elements and the actual story that goes along with these characters saving the world, I said it earlier, the writers locked in. Like, it's one of the best kids shows that I've seen in a long time. I mean, none of this Henry Danger bullshit. And actually, now that I think of it, there was a bad guy teased at the end of the original MiniForce show. I just wasn't in this. What was that guy? I can't remember that guy's name, but he was teased and he was not in this show. I'd love to see if that character, or at least that model, shows up in another show down the line. Honestly, thank you guys for being so passionate about the show and borderline begging me to cover MiniForce X, because I truly believe it is the best thing that has come out so far from this show, in my opinion at least. MiniForce had everything. Slick transforming robots, energetic action, a simple but killer premise, and a fan base of kids and animation lovers that was growing with every season. It was a franchise on a clear upward path, a freight train powered on pure, unadulterated fun. So when a feature-length movie was announced, a crossover with dinosaurs, it should have been MiniForce's finest hour. And instead, MiniForce, Dino, King of the Dinosaurs, or as it's known in the West as MiniForce Dino King, was the beginning of the end. Kind of. This wasn't just a slight misstep or a forgettable side story. This felt like a fundamental betrayal of what made the series great. It took the franchise's core strengths, watered them down, and shoved them into the background for a slower, blander, and bewilderingly generic story. This is the story about how one film killed the MiniForce hype. Before we can dissect the fall, we have to understand the climb. The MiniForce TV series, especially its immediate predecessor to this film, MiniForce X, wasn't just another kids show. It was special. It had that secret ingredient that the fans and critics simply called the sauce. Okay, maybe it's just me that calls it the sauce, but still, it was this undefinable quality, a perfect storm of bright and flashy colours for kids with great action and storytelling that can be appreciated by an older audience. The premise of MiniForce is quite simple. A team of elite rangers who are secretly small, adorable animals living with a kind human girl named Susie and are tasked with defending Earth from alien threats. When danger calls, Commander Chen dispatches the team and they transform from fluffy pets into high-tech armoured warriors. Volt, the blue squirrel, Sammy the red owl, Max the yellow beaver, and Lucy the pink fox. And their team would go on to expand with Rio, Sammy, and of course Ray the GOAT. And what made this work so well was the execution. The MiniForce X series in particular had really perfected the formula of what went into each episode. A monster of the week appears, our heroes are sent in, and what follows is a symphony of glorious over-the-top combat. The transformation sequences were slick, the ground fights were a whirlwind of martial arts and energy blasts, and it all culminated in one giant robot fight. It's something that Tokusatsu fans were very familiar with. The first MiniForce series and movie really introduced us to this world, and MiniForce X was just the cherry on top. The finale of MiniForce X literally ended with the promise of dinosaurs. The implication was clear. The next chapter was going to fuse the high-tech world of MiniForce with the primal power of dinosaurs. And for fans, this was a dream come true. I mean, we complain with Power Rangers and Super Sentai bringing back the dinosaur theme all the time, but kids love it, and a lot of adults love it as well. The stage was set for the ultimate MiniForce adventure, a cinematic spectacle that would take the franchise's signature action and dial it up to 11. It was an easy win. It was a guaranteed success. So what went wrong? The movie was released in South Korea in early 2020, and whilst it was set to take place after MiniForce X, it actually released during the following series, MiniForce Super Dino Power. It's clear that they tried to go hard on the dinosaur concept just so that fans would enjoy the following season, but it's weird how that aired before the MiniForce X movie did. And I think the fact they tried to go so hard on the dinosaur premise is what contributed to it systematically dismantling every single element that made the franchise beloved. Starting with like one of the most egregious sins the movie could have made, which was sidelining the main characters. MiniForce Dino King isn't a MiniForce movie. Like, not really. Like, the title is a massive lie. The team you paid to see, Volt, Sammy, Lucy, Max, Ray, Rio, Sammy, they're producer side characters. And so if they're not the protagonists, who is? Well, his name is Yan. A generic, dinosaur-obsessed kid with zero prior connection to the franchise. The movie opens with a promised dinosaur invasion led by an alien species called Vidarians. They possess a powerful artifact called the Dino Key, which is responsible for summoning the dinosaurs to Earth. The focus swerves away from MiniForce when one of the Vidarians loses the key and it ends up in the hands of Yan. He accidentally activates it and brings Dino into the world, which his name isn't Dino originally, he names him that, and it's spelled D-E-E-N-O. But like, if you know someone called Dean, especially in the UK, you typically call him Dino, and I can't get past the idea of this dinosaur being called Dean. Dean's a perfectly fine name, nothing wrong with the name Dean, but a massive T-Rex just doesn't suit Dean. And from that point on, the movie just becomes Boy and his best friend, the dinosaur. Instead of the high-stakes action we were promised, we get a long, drawn-out montage of Yan bonding with his new pet. We watch him feed the T-Rex, we watch him clean up after him, we watch him nurse him back to health. Whilst this could have worked as a subplot, they play it as the main plot. The MiniForce team feels like an afterthought, popping in occasionally to fight a random dinosaur or to have a brief chat with Yan, but they have no agency. They're reactive, not proactive. I mean, there's a bit at the start of the film where we feel like they're gonna hunt down Dino, but then that just doesn't really happen. Like, imagine watching an Iron Man movie where Tony Stark is the background character and instead we follow some person who just found like one of Tony Stark's gloves, which I guess is kind of the plot of Iron Man 3, but at least they circled back around to Iron Man and Pepper by the end of it. And maybe in a popular opinion, I really like Iron Man 3. I know a lot of people don't, I fuck with that movie. Point being though, it's quite an arrogant decision that just like misunderstands the whole concept of the show. In my opinion, the shift in focus is mainly why this movie fails. It benches the heart of the franchise for an entire hour. The pacing suffers immensely, with the opening invasion completely squandered by a long, sluggish second act. It was a betrayal of the audience's trust, and believe me, it was just the first of many. And I know I just said a lot of bad, so let's be generous just for a moment. Let's say we accept the new protagonist. Let's say we're fine with MiniForce being kicked to the sidelines. The one thing that should have remained intact, the one non-negotiable element was the action. The sauce! The sauce, I tell you! Surely, even though the story was a mess, the action in this film would have still been fantastic, just like it was in MiniForce X. Right? Well, somehow in the jump to the big screen with what was presumably a bigger budget, the action became sterile, slow, just devoid of any stakes. And there's kind of actually like a strange paradox at play here, because on a technical level, the action does get better. It's a lot smoother, and if anything, it looks like they could have maybe motion capped, or at least animated 2 real fights. It's really smooth, and it doesn't look awful on a technical level. I don't know, there was just no part of this where I was getting excited, and look, I'ma save you the troubles of writing in the comments saying that I'm a grown man and this is a kid's film. We talk about that element in every video like this that I do, I know. MiniForce X, if you've seen my video MiniForce X, blew me away. It was such a step up from the original show that I couldn't have predicted. Everybody in the comments was like, you need to watch MiniForce X and you'll know why. And I don't want to keep sounding like a broken record, but the source is lost in this film. In MiniForce X, a typical fight is a rapid-fire exchange of blows. The camera is always in motion, a flurry of quick cuts and dynamic angles that emphasize speed and impact. It highlights each ranger's special powers, especially with their X discs that give them even more power. When Volt lands a punch, there's a visceral sense of force behind it. The screen shakes, energy bursts, and the sound design sells the hit. Now in this film, the shots are longer, the characters move with a strange floaty quality, lacking the weight and urgency of their TV counterparts. The choreography is uninspired, mostly just characters standing still and firing generic energy beams at each other. It feels less like a desperate battle and more like a low energy rehearsal. It's like you ask them to fight and we'll go, oh, we'll do it on the day.
I'll do it on the night.
This is the night.
And this is made worse by the film's visual direction. The colour palette is overwhelmingly grey and muted. Cities, landscapes, and even the villains are draped in dull, lifeless colours that suck the energy right out of the frame. The TV show was vibrant and colourful, making the action pop. The movie, by contrast, just looks dreary. Dreary? That's a word, isn't it? I've written that down. I wrote this script like 2 days ago. Then there are the dinosaurs themselves. They're rendered in a hyper-realistic CG style that clashes horribly with the more stylized anime-esque designs of the rangers and humans in this world. It's just a little bit jarring. I wouldn't even go as far as say it's like janky, because they don't look awful, but it's just the combination that doesn't work. It creates this constant nagging feeling that what you're watching is fake, pulling you out of the experience every time a realistic T-Rex stands in front of our very animated characters. Dino himself looks a little better. There's definitely like a lot more design that went into him, but all the others just seem like stock assets, like 3D models of dinosaurs. Hello, so you've made it to the midpoint of this video, and I actually have a little something fun for us. A full set of the original 5 MiniForce Rangers. These are the MiniForce original figures, not the MiniForce X. Trying to get your hands on MiniForce X figures is insane. Samji, if anyone who works on MiniForce is watching this video, I'd love those figures. I'd review them for you guys if you wanted to send them in. However, and I was going to do an unboxing, however, I realized I've got Ray here, but I've also got Ray back there. I have 2 Rays. I was wondering if anybody would like this one. Should I do a giveaway? Would anyone like this Ray figure? Completely free shipping. Let me know. I'm not going to do the giveaway in this video, but if you come back for the Super Dino Mode video, or the Super Dino Power video, what's the name of that show? Then maybe I'll give away this figure. Apart from that, yeah, my MiniForce figures. So there they are, the MiniForce 4. Obviously, I have Ray behind me. I will find a way to fit all these guys in the back there with Ray. Somehow, it's quite crowded back there. I might have to figure something out. I will now let you guys get back to the video. Maybe consider subscribing if you've got some time while you're waiting. But let's get back to the video. And then we've got the villain story that went nowhere. A hero is only as good as their villains. And the TV series understood this, giving us a rogues gallery of memorable, bizarre, and entertaining antagonists. Dino King of the Dinosaurs give us the Vidarians, or the Vadarians, led by Queen Empress. The main enforcers are a trio of goons named Square, Tri, and Circle. And yes, their designs are as lazy as the name suggests. They're a massive downgrade from MiniForce X's Dan crew, a trio of recurring villains who, while bumbling, had distinct personalities and had a genuinely funny, dysfunctional dynamic. The Dan crew were entertaining failures. You just loved to watch them lose until they had their redemption arc towards the end of the show, teamed up with MiniForce, helped them take down Zord, and the main guy whose name I can't remember all of a sudden. But we were all massive fans of those characters by the end of the show. Square, Tri, and Circle, by contrast, are completely interchangeable. They have no discernible personality, motivation, or menace beyond serving their queen. Their grand plan is to conquer Earth by controlling dinosaurs with a big sword. It's the most paper-thin of plots and a lazy excuse to have dinosaurs attack a city. Compared to the charismatic villains of the TV show, the Vidarians are just shit. They're there to be the bad guys, and that is it. And what gets me the most is that nothing happens with them. There's Queen Empress, right? Which I'd love to have been in the meeting room when they were coming up with that name. She shows up, declares they must attack Earth, or whatever it was she did, and that was it. No continuation for that character. Will she show up in Super Dino Power? Probably not, I'm willing to guess. The designs weren't the worst. Square was pretty sick. I believe he's also potentially called Squire, when obviously there's translation between Korean and English. He kind of looks like a bird. He looks quite cool, and the other 2, Circle and Tri, look a lot more like cats, I want to say. But like, their designs are the only somewhat redeeming quality, and even then, their designs aren't that great. it. With a weak hero, bland action, and forgettable villains, the plot was the only thing left that could have saved this movie. And it didn't. The main story with Yan and Dino is already a slog, but the film pads its 73-minute runtime with some of the strangest, most pointless subplots imaginable. A huge chunk of the movie is dedicated to a theme park called Dino Land, which feels less like a real place and more like a toy set that the writers were forced to include. And the most baffling thing of the entire film is the way they force in a connection between Yan and Susie. We learn that Susie's mother and Yan's mother knew each other, and it adds nothing to the story other than a reason for them to meet up in Dino Land and say they know each other. Oh, and by the way, we also see Susie's mother for I think the first time ever in this movie when she walks in and says, Yan's mother is my friend and you're gonna meet Yan. I don't know. It felt awkward. It was weird. I wasn't even 100% sure that was Yan until he was like, oh yeah, that's Dino. I was like, sick. No worries. The climax tries to bring it all together, but because the journey was so disjointed and emotionally hollow, it does nothing. We get a big flashy battle, but we don't care about the outcome because the film has given us no reason to. The emotional anchor isn't the MiniForce team saving the world, it's the friendship between Yan and Dino. A bond that the movie failed to make compelling in the first place, but the ending is the real kicker. They end up breaking the dinosaurs free of their brainwashing, and then Square uses the control sword to turn himself into a giant kaiju to fight with Dino, the other dinosaurs, and the Force X Pentatron Zord. He's ultimately defeated. It's a pretty cool moment where Dino throws him into the sky and then shoots him with a fireball out his mouth. And then he destroys the sword and they all go back to their home world, which, by the way, is called Dino. The entire emotional crux of the film, the friendship that hijacked the narrative, is erased with a reset button. It renders the whole journey pointless. There is a post-credit scene, or at least a scene that plays while the credits are rolling, which suggests that Yan will meet Dino again at some point. But there's two things with that. One, I doubt it. I doubt that's the case. But also, at the start of the film, no one has learned anything. No one has changed as characters. There was these bullies that were bullying Yan at one point that ended up becoming his friends at the end. But in the MiniForce, nothing changes for them. Nothing in the slightest. When the credits rolled of this film, I was left confused and a little disappointed. This didn't feel like the franchise that I've grown to love through making these videos on it. And the film's reception did reflect this. Whilst it wasn't a catastrophic bomb, the general reception was overwhelmingly mediocre. It took the trust and excitement of a dedicated fan base and squandered it on a project that seemed to misunderstand its whole appeal. The decision to sideline the main team was crazy. We forgot about Sammy. We did include Rio at some point, but he had little to no involvement. And there was no Ray. Where's Ray? You know, where's Hawk as well? But that's a story for another day. Check out my first MiniForce video for that one. The studio even seemed to acknowledge the dinosaur theme was popular in theory, leading to subsequent seasons like Super Dino Power and Dinoid, which felt like an attempt to either course correct or just double down on the one element that the movie thought it had done right. But for many fans at that point, the magic was gone. The movie had revealed a worrying lack of vision, a willingness to sacrifice the franchise's identity for a generic, forgettable story, and it created a fracture in the fan base, a skepticism that I don't think ever truly healed. I don't know many other people that like MiniForce. Like in my personal life, I've tried to join different groups on like Facebook and like Reddit and stuff just to try and gauge opinions, and it seems that the Dino movie wasn't it, which I'm glad about. Not because I wanted it to be bad, but I was worried that I hated this when other people loved it, and I was like, am I falling out of love with MiniForce? Apparently not. Apparently it's just a bad movie. The movie serves as a cautionary tale, a lesson in what happens when a property at the height of its power forgets what made it special. It wasn't just a disappointment, it was an anchor that dragged the entire franchise down, killing the hype and leaving fans to wonder what could have been. In the end, Dino, the king of the dinosaurs, committed the worst sin an action franchise can. It was boring. By pushing its beloved heroes to the sidelines, sanitizing its trademark action, and delivering a story that was both paper thin and needlessly convoluted. The movie alienated the exact audience it set out to please. But hey, dinosaurs are cool, right? Dinosaurs are actually pretty cool. I do like dinosaurs, but not in this instance. MiniForce Super Dino Power, the third series in the MiniForce franchise that was ready to take everything to the next level. I've had many requests to talk about the show, along with a few warnings, with one person even saying, save yourself the trouble and don't bother. I don't know about you, but I kind of want to figure out why people are saying this. I mean, does it tarnish the MiniForce legacy, or is it actually an underrated banger that's just been tarnished by bad word of mouth? Let's find out. If you don't know what MiniForce is, then, I mean, where were you for these 4 videos? They're a team of small talking animals that morph into MiniForce Rangers to fight crime with superpowered weapons and incredible mech fighters. They come in a variety of colours, with the main team being Volt, a blue squirrel, Sammy, a red owl, Lucy, a pink fox, Max, a yellow beaver, and Rio, an onyx black cat. There's also additional rangers such as Jackie, a green monkey, and Ray, who is technically a Black Panther, but his story is more that he's sort of like a mutation of a bunch of different animals mixed into one. And he's also like the coolest ranger out of all of them. The show opens up with Rio taking the team to a top secret location, a new dino themed headquarters. This is where the team are told they'll be getting new powers inspired by the strongest creatures to walk the earth. Of course, dinosaurs. The finale of MiniForce X teased that dinosaurs would be next, along with getting a follow-up movie about dinosaurs. However, that movie wasn't that great. I also covered that in a video. The team are given new Super Dino Morphers, which are an interesting upgrade from their previous changes, those being small handheld devices with the new Morphers being wearable on their wrists. We do get a little glimpse into their new suits, along with what dinosaur each ranger will embody. Lucy is the Triceratops, Max is the Brachiosaurus, Volt is the Tyrannosaurus, Rio is the Stegosaurus, and Sammy is the Pteranodon, not the Pterodactyl, as we so graciously learnt in the Dinosaur video, thanks to our good old friend Joey Lever. And the new suits actually look great in my opinion. A little more cartoonish than the MiniForce X suits for sure, but they look to me like an amalgamation of both OG and X suits. I love the claw marks down their torsos, along with the additional white accents across their shoulder pads and helmets. Max's helmet looks a little off to me, though I can't quite put my finger on why. Maybe because it looks the most different from his previous ones, but Volt, Lucy, Rio, and Sammy's helmets look pretty slick. The yellow claws on their boots are a nice touch too. I just wish they kept some form of coloured accents on the black parts of their suits. In MiniForce X, the darker parts of their suits were still somewhat related to the colour that the Ranger was. And in the original show, they had neon lights running down their arms, body, and legs. Though I do love the little dino belt buckles that they have. That's pretty cool. And overall, I think these suits are pretty slick. They still look like badass superheroes, all whilst fitting into this more like adjusted art style. So now we've been reintroduced to our heroes, it's time to meet our brand new villain, the big bad of the show, Captain Powerman, a short king in purple who looks like Taskmaster and Shy Guy had a baby. I mean, you put this guy next to Master Xenos and you wonder how he's gonna prevail if Xenos didn't. We learn immediately that Captain Powerman thinks he's the hero in this story, and he's kind of an empath, and he feels bad for inanimate objects when humans, or animals in the case of MiniForce, sort of misuse them. So Captain Powerman has the ability to create power balls, which he can then possess inanimate objects with to make them come to life and allow them to have revenge on the people who mistreated them. In this case, for episode 1, it is a trash can monster, or a bin monster if you're from the UK. But I feel like Trash Can Monster sounds better than Bin Monster. And now in my opinion, this is where the series starts to show its lack of complexion in comparison to the last few. The first battle, which takes up the majority of episode 1, is with Volt on his own, along with there not even being a morphing sequence. He just gets covered in trash and shoots out of it fully morphed, missing out on what is usually the most pivotal part of a henshin show, the first henshin. You know, where's the flashy lights and the roll call? Where's the rest of the team, mainly, but, you know, quick morphs like this are fine throughout the show, but, like, debut your new suits in style, come on. Once Volt is suited up, he pulls out an add-on to his Super Dino Morpher, which lets him summon, you ready for this, his Super Dino, a sentient mech-like companion that he can both ride and do special attacks with. Volt's Super Dino is, of course, a blue Tyrannosaurus, whose name is Tyraka, and he goes into battle with him. The fight is mostly slapstick humour with a couple of smashes and bashes, to the point where you'd wonder if it's like Volt's first day on the job, despite even having a prequel movie to the original show that proves that he was a solid agent before even becoming MiniForce Blue. The fight then ends fairly quickly, with the Powerball leaving the trash can, stripping it completely of its sentience. Now, I assumed, just like the previous shows, that each episode is actually part of a 2-episode interconnected story. One 11-minute episode links with another 11-minute episode, we get one 22-minute story, it makes sense, that's how kind of TV works runtime-wise, that's how MiniForce worked, it's how MiniForce X worked, it's how Moncart worked, it's how other Samji shows work. Not in this scenario. Not in this scenario at all. They drop the formula completely, and episode 2 is all about Max's birthday that includes a birthday cake monster. And whilst nothing of much value happens in the episode, we do get the introduction of the other Super Dinos. Terex the Pteranodon, Braca the Brachiosaurus, Trix the Triceratops, and Stegos the Stegosaurus. The episode is once again void of any sort of morphing sequence, proving that they are just throwing us in raw, and that the 2 minutes at the start of episode 1 was all we needed to get into the show, apparently. And just like previous MiniForce videos, by the way, I'm not going to be going in detail on every single episode, but instead just ones that I feel like add the most to the overarching story, but then also ones that introduce new items or new abilities. Episode 3 is a Lucy and Sammy focus episode that features a vacuum cleaner monster. The episode debuts the Super Dino Guns, which is low-key just a blaster. We see the Force Guns in episode 2, so we know they still have access to those powers from the previous shows, so this new Dino Gun, it feels a bit gratuitous, I'm not gonna lie. Episode 4 has the mighty refrigerator monster, and I just want to talk about Captain Powerman and the monologue that he does nearly every episode, whereby just before he possesses something, he's going, "You poor inanimate object, you can't possibly fight back, I give you the power to fight back!"
You work all day to keep the food cold, but humans keep leaving your door open and mistreating you. They will not be forgiven.
Every episode, and I know we're only on episode 4, but like, spoiler alert, I watch all the episodes before I record these videos. He does it every single time. So, Volt and Max fight the fridge monster, get frozen in ice, and the fridge grows to a kaiju. Then, with no hype, no build-up whatsoever, the mech is brought in, but not as usual. Instead of having separate force vehicles that could eventually become one giant force bot, this is just one singular transformer. It's a red and blue car that can transform into a fighting machine called Tyranno Thunder. Tyranno Thunder is a badass name. I'm here for that, that's sick. But why is the first mech of Super Dino Power a car? A singular car. Now surely, just in my opinion, this is like the perfect time to ditch the vehicles and do, I don't know, dinosaurs? And I mean, I was like positive that these dino companions were gonna grow and become the mechs, and they just don't. I mean, at least not up until this point. Low-key don't at all. Episode 5 opens with someone having committed a diabolical act in the school bathroom, and Susie, the team's owner when they're just in pet form, is accused of the crime. As a result, Captain Powerman, the empath that he is, he gives the toilet life, and we get a toilet monster for the episode. A 4-armed toilet monster that gives people belly aches and lobs giant turds at people.
Disgusting!
And please just take my word for it when I say this is the beginning of an unbearable amount of fart jokes throughout this show. I know this is a kid's show, but I honestly think MiniForce X had like one singular fart joke the entire time. I don't want to keep resorting to the show being like, oh, I know it is a kid's show, because the literal predecessor, the one that came directly before it, does it so much better. I know you're not going crazy. This episode is actually important because we actually get the first official morph sequence in it. It's not bad. The animation is pretty fluid, though it is in grid format, so we don't get any cool roll call or anything. I really like the cherry on top of just the claw marks getting scratched onto their suits. Doesn't have the same hype as the previous ones. Maybe, again, that's due to the lack of roll call, but we got a morph in sequence. It's kind of stylized, I like the claw marks. We're kind of forgiven on that element. Jumping over to episode 7, we have a cooking pot monster and the introduction of a new mecha called Terra Sky. A red Pteranodon themed robot that you'd believe belongs to Sammy, but is actually just a general robot. Just the old pilot. It's not linked to Sammy in the slightest. And honestly, I don't hate the idea of this varied lineup of mechas. Instead of them having their own that all combine, spice it up a little. I get it. It's something fresh, something fun. I just think the execution of it is weird. They made an effort to show the transition over to the new Dino Powers, but the new mechs are being treated like we've known about them the whole time. And we just haven't. We're so used to these individual mechs that join together. This is a fun concept. Talk about it. Explain to us why this is. Show us Rio building them. Do something. Episode 8 is kind of bizarre because there's actually no monster in it, and instead Max is turned into a kaiju. Why, you may be asking? Well,
Listen, the problem is Max's farts have been extremely smelly today.
it is a diabolical episode with no resolve to it, but we do get the debut of Captain Powerman's self-indulgent mecha and a cool tag team between Tyranno Thunder and Terra Sky. They don't combine or anything like that, but it is cool to see the two mechs working together. There's a bit of sort of consistency within the show. And as we leap over to episode 12, we finally get an episode that is a little bit more inspired. Volt and Susie are arguing over whose show they should get to watch. Susie wants to watch Vroom Vroom Vroomies, and Volt wants to watch Moncart. Two other shows created by Sam G Entertainment, the latter of which I've done a video on before. Whilst arguing, they get electrocuted somehow and switch bodies. With this development, Volt then has to go to school on behalf of Susie, and whilst the jokes are as slapstick as before, we get another Moncart reference in the form of her playing a sort of like video game on her phone that is Moncart based. Sam G wanted this show to work. Clearly, it is everywhere. The reason I did a Moncart video was because of how plastered it was in MiniForce X. That show got 1 season. I don't know what went wrong. They were trying to push it. Didn't work.
Didn't work, didn't it?
This is all followed by Captain Powerman creating a remote control monster, and 4 out of the 5 MiniForce Rangers get trapped inside different TV shows. Though of course Volt's mind is in Susie's body. So we get to see Susie, well technically Volt, but Susie's body become a Ranger. For all intents and purposes, they are still using Volt's T-Rex powers, but we do get a pink suit that is a slightly lighter shade to Lucy's, along with having a different helmet, and there's even a pink Tyraka. And what's funny is the show made an effort to create this one-off morphing sequence for her, which I can really appreciate, but when you see the claws get scratched onto her chest, the claws are already there before the scratch happens, despite having Rio's sequence side by side where the marks aren't there first, just making them even more noticeable. Anyway, Volt Susie is able to defeat the monster King Arthur style, both freeing the other Rangers and swapping back to their original bodies. And we are on a winning streak here because episode 13 is also really fun, showcasing a new line of action figures called MiniForce that takes the town by storm. Captain Powerman makes a set of them sentient, embodying the energy of the real characters but causing scenes around town, vandalising buses and trashing stores. We get to see a fun MiniForce versus MiniForce battle before they end up talking to each other and just saying, look, that's not what being a hero means. Being a hero means protecting the city. Go back and clean up all the mess you made. And they do. They go and clean up the bus, they go help out in the stores, and the MiniForce end up becoming heroes as well. Captain Powerman then makes a giant MiniForce Blue, which results in MiniForce teaming up with MiniForce to defeat the giant MiniForce Ranger. God damn, that was a lot. By and large, the show is definitely lacking that sense of overarching story, like we're leading towards something, but episodes like this and the last one do show the creative side of the writing, and I'm glad we at least get to keep some of that from the original shows. Which is a perfect representation of episodes 15 and 16, which actually are 2 episodes that connect with each other. The episodes open mid-battle with the team fighting an army of evil pen monsters, and they're looking for the pen's leader. They interrogate one of the foot soldiers who says their leader is actually hiding out at a school, so in order to find it, they're gonna have to go to that school undercover to find this evil pen. And it sounds incredibly silly when you consider the fact we're talking about a pen. However, so far, this is one of the more complex and interesting stories to Super Dino Power. I'm all here for it. So if the team will be blending in a school, they can't just show up looking like animals. So Rio was able to use a device to disguise them as humans. And frankly, their human designs look great. They're all still beautifully color-coded, both in their clothes and their hair, minus Max, who seems to alternate between white hair and brown hair. Lucy and Volt's hair ears are cute. I love how Max is portrayed as the biggest due to his powers being primarily strength related, so it makes sense that he's the bigger guy. And Sammy honestly looks like Jin Haste if he went to private school. I also really dig how they actually wear their wrist morphers, something you don't really see in their animal forms until they're actually about to morph. And there are a few morphed fights thanks to the fact the story is split up over 2 episodes, and when the pen leader is revealed, his design is low-key one of the best looking monsters we've had in this show so far. We get a human form morph sequence which adds so much value to me, proving that actual care was put into these episodes, and even when their team have their suits on, the novelty doesn't wear off. This specific story is very reminiscent of something from MiniForce X. Tyranno Thunder is called at the end to finish the job, even doing a cool spirit-like attack similar to what the Force X discs could do. Damn, do you remember the Force X discs? They were badass as well. And with that, the show's picking up a bit of momentum, you know. I feel like we're getting somewhere, maybe. Episode 17 is led by Rio, where a sausage monster turns the rest of the team into, you guessed it. The importance of this episode is that over the course of 17 episodes, Rio has successfully created an antidote to Captain Powerman's power balls. Which, the more I say out loud, Captain Powerman's power balls sounds like it's on a channel that, like, I wasn't allowed to watch when I was a kid. You know what I mean? But point being, if Captain Powerman possesses one of these inanimate objects, Rio's new antidote can now reverse that effect without them having to defeat the thing. However, it doesn't work when they are kaijus. They still have to call their mechs if Captain Powerman makes them grow. And speaking of, the episode does introduce 2 new robos. Dino Knight, a blue fighter bot, and Tricera Rush, a red Triceratops bot. They can fight separately, but their best feature is that this robo duo do in fact combine with each other, creating Force Trigger. Oh, thank you, finally, some sort of Megazord combo. It's not the worst looking Megazord I've ever seen, though the repeating blue and red colour scheme is getting a little boring, especially when pink and yellow are readily available with Max and Lucy. And also props to them for finally giving us a damn Dinosaur Zord. It only took us, what, 17 episodes to get our first Dinosaur Zord? And it isn't really relevant to the episode, but when the sausage becomes a kaiju, it has an entire Megazord docking sequence becoming a hot dog with all the different ingredients locking in together. And I don't know why I needed to be more intimate to tell you guys this. I didn't know why I needed to include it at all, but I was watching it and it just felt like information that I needed you to know. I must admit, episodes 12 through 17 have been pretty decent. You know, the story hasn't been all there, but the concepts of each episode were fun, and we're starting to see glimmers of what MiniForce used to be through the smoke. But episode 18 is about to take that further. For starters, the episode focuses on the return of Jackie, the green MiniForce Ranger. There's no reintroduction at all, he's just there as if he never left, despite being absent for 17 episodes. The theme of the episode is that he and Volt are playing with claw machines, and Jackie keeps winning whilst Volt is losing. Until, of course, Captain Powerman comes along, turns the claw machines into monsters, and everybody bar Jackie gets caught in the machine. Unlike the previous shows, Jackie does morph immediately and takes on the claw machine, even having his own super dino called T-Rex. I mean, it's a little less original than Tyraka, and it is essentially just a green repaint of Tyraka. However, Jackie is soon overpowered by the claw monster and is almost defeated until my goat Ray appears, making his Super Dino Power debut with a shiny new black and yellow suit. You'll know how much I love Ray and how much he's my favorite character in this show, and the fact that he's finally showed up 18 episodes in, I don't mind. Bro is a mid-series character. He shows up mid-series every single time. It's fine by me. He even has his own Pterodon Super Dino called Vespro, and he gets back up though, doesn't he? And like defeats the thing single-handedly. Oh no! Oh no! So you're telling me that the coolest MiniForce Ranger ever shows up, looking badass, shiny new suit, new Super Dino, first time we've seen him. He shows up in somebody else's Focus episode, somebody else who's only just shown up as well, by the way, and immediately knocked on his ass and doesn't come back from it. Why? How? Who made that decision? If you haven't seen MiniForce X or my video on MiniForce X, Ray has the most badass reintroduction in MiniForce X ever. It's a two-part reintroduction where he faces a villain called Black Knight that rode a mechanical horse, and Ray had to single-handedly destroy him to free the other Rangers. It was one of the coolest, if not the coolest episode of that entire show. And now he's been reduced to a gag. Ray's the GOAT, bro. Justice for Ray. I mean, justice for Hawk. I haven't forgot about that guy. I don't think I forgot about him. But justice for Ray. Episode 19 is about Lucy being scared of crabs, so a Powerball is used on a crab to turn it into a monster. And this is the first time that an already sentient being was turned into one of these monsters. I'd wonder how that works, if it works differently. I mean, they don't explain that to be the case in the show, but so far he's only done it on inanimate objects. Now he's done it on a living thing. It feels wrong. Things then take a sharp turn when the crab kidnaps Lucy and takes her down to the bottom of the ocean, where she quite literally can't breathe. And that is when Rio swoops in with a new power-up for Volt. Not only does he get to use an auxiliary super dino called Mega Shark, but Volt gets a brand new suit. A cyan Megalodon-inspired suit that gives Volt the ability to breathe underwater. Now, I've not been keeping score or anything like that, but if we did tally up everything that this show's done to piss me off so far, this is a couple of points off the list. This is cool. I love the colour of this new suit. I mean, albeit still somewhat of a shade of blue, but the very concept that power-ups are available opens the door for endless possibilities. When Volt tries to save Lucy, she does put on some amateur dramatics doing the "No, Volt, stay back, save yourself." I mean, Queen. This new suit is specifically designed to go underwater. Let him do it. Like, that's what the suit's for. The Megalodon Super Dino is then able to harness Volt's anger and absolutely murks the crab, grabbing Lucy and bringing her to the surface. They actually believe for a hot minute that she is dead before she eventually comes to. And this episode is honestly up there with the Pens episode. I mean, I wish it spanned 2 episodes. That would have been cool. Have a bigger build up to the new powers. Perhaps show Rio working on the powers at the start of the episode or something. But overall, it was fire. Love that new suit. Love the Megalodon Super Dino. Episode 20 is literally only worth mentioning because Ray appears again, but keeps getting finessed. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but in the last show he was borderline untouchable. What happened? Why have we nerfed him? That said, it does seem like it all links in, because in episode 21, we open with the bad guys watching archived footage of Ray's first appearance a few episodes back. They admire his skill, but mention how they don't see him often, speculating as to whether they could recruit him to join their evil forces. We see Captain Powerman's lackeys go out into the city to attempt possession, which is nice to see them actually put to work. They've been around since the start of the show. I honestly couldn't tell you their names. They're nothing compared to the Dan crew. They have little to no real story involvement, and it's a shame because the designs aren't awful. I mean, they're not great, but they're not awful. Anyway, they do manage to hit Ray with a Powerball. His suit alters slightly, getting a new Captain Powerman logo and these weird yellow arms. Ray is officially working for Captain Powerman, and I honestly don't know how to feel about it. Like, I'm glad that he's getting the recognition he deserves to be part of the story a little bit more, and he was kind of working for Pascal in the original series when we first met him. It's a cool little callback. I mean, it kind of ties into the bigger MiniForce story in a way. I kind of vibe with it, but also I feel like Ray should be the one that's too powerful to get possessed by the Powerball. But then I guess that shows how powerful the Powerballs actually are. I just wish the show cared enough to give us more, like, Captain Powerman being scary, do you know what I mean? Like, if you want me to believe that Ray can be possessed by this, that's completely fine, but make the balls and Powerman seem more menacing from the start. I know they can turn things into monsters, but like, this is the second time now that they've used the Powerballs on a sentient being, not even mentioning the fact that this is one of the MiniForce Rangers. Like, I just feel like there could have been a bigger build-up to it. Ray attacks the team, and unsurprisingly, is stronger than all of them combined. Ray the GOAT. It leads us directly into episode 22, where Ray captures the team and throws them into what is essentially a sword trap where they have to just run against a conveyor belt, otherwise they will get crushed. Jackie and Rio weren't captured, so they're the team's last hope, and they break into Captain Powerman's base on a rescue mission. Jackie and T-Rex manage to break the team out of their death trap, whilst Rio uses his Powerball antidote to break Ray free from corruption. It's really nice seeing the antidote being acknowledged and tying in a story from an earlier episode. That's cool. Would I have loved to have seen Ray as an evil ranger for a little bit longer? Yeah. Either way, they're all on one team again, and we finally get a shot of all 7 Rangers in one lineup together. Oh! Love it. Dino Knight then smashes through the walls of the base to break them free, resulting in a forced Trigger battle against Powerman's mech with the help of Ray and Vespro to round off the episode. I'm reserving the word P-E-A-K, because I feel like, you know, if I'm throwing it about, sometimes I throw it out too often. This show hasn't deserved it yet, but I'm just saying, Ray being back on the team, they have a chance to redeem him. Maybe I'll grant that word. It's like a Paul Hollywood handshake, do you know what I mean? I'm just throwing bake-off references into my MiniForce Dino Power video. Episode 23 is essentially Toy Story gone wrong. Evil toys are brought to life, along with all of the MiniForce getting shrunk down, appearing as their MiniForce toys when they morph. Including Rio this time as well. He didn't get a MiniForce rendition beforehand. For some reason they didn't make a toy of him, they only made a toy of the original 4, so we get to see a little baby Rio now as well. This would have been a fun concept, but they didn't do anything that interesting with it. The novelty of MiniForce wore off after the first episode, I feel. And the living room is the only giant set that they betray in the whole thing. That said, I did really like how they used a remote-controlled toy version of Force Trigger to do the Zord battle. The final 2 episodes of Season 1 are a joint finale where Captain Powerman uses Powerballs to possess the Super Dinos, turning them against the Rangers and causing all-out chaos. Tyraka and T-Rex don't get corrupted, so they help fight back, but it ultimately ends with all of the Super Dinos being so damaged that they're out of action completely. Despite his lack of character development, Captain Powerman is proving to be too strong for the team and uses a giant Powerball to turn a whole city building into a kaiju. The team call on all of the mechs that we've seen so far in the show, allowing for a 3v1 against the building monster. Whilst the battle is going on, the lackeys are using the Powerman mech to harness power from a power grid to create more power balls. I should do a tally for the amount of times the word power is said in this. Now, first the team plan to split up and take one mech over to the power plant until...
I'm sorry. Hang on. That's it! Max! We'll use this to stop Captain Powerman's robot! Huh?
They literally use a fart joke to call back to the Max Kaiju episode to bring that idea forward so that they can then turn Max into a kaiju and just send Max over there instead of one of their mechs. And at some point, you've just got to commend the attention to detail, haven't you? Like, I hate what it was, but what they did with it kind of slaps. So Max deals with the Powerman mech, and Ray returns riding Vespro to destroy the building monster from the inside. Captain Powerman does manage to flee the scene, but of course, he is destined to return. And that is Season 1 of MiniForce Super Dino Power. To look at the positives first. The new suits and the varied mech lineup keep things fresh, and Volt's Megalodon power-up opens exciting doors. Several episodes rise well above the others, with the body switch episode putting genuine care into Susie's one-off fighting sequence. The MiniForce episode is really fun, and the 2-part pen story is a real high point for the show, with beautiful human designs, a proper morph sequence, and one of the best monster designs in the series. I mean, Ray getting more screen time and all 7 Rangers assembling together are welcome payoffs too, even if they reduce Ray's character to just a visual aid. With that said, Ray did deserve better, but so did all of the characters. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it is an undeniable downgrade from the original season so far. It lacked an overarching story, removed any notable character traits that weren't related to bodily functions, and any stylish visuals from the previous shows were stripped completely. And Captain Powerman sucks so far, man. Bro does nothing other than claim he's the real hero by allowing inanimate objects to enact revenge for being used. And I mean, speaking of, I didn't cover every single episode because a lot of them didn't even add anything to the story, but I at least wanted to list off all of the monsters that appeared in those episodes that I didn't talk about. Some of them are quite fun, some of them are diabolical. Either way, it's an enjoyable experience. There was a shoe monster, a dumpling monster, a ball monster, a piano monster, and egg monsters. And just before we tippy-toe our way into Season 2, I just want to say that the theme song for Super Dino Power sucks ass. It is the worst theme song out of all the shows before. The first one was a good theme song, but the singing and the production of it wasn't great. The second one was an all-out banger of a theme song. This is not great. I mean, what happened to the other one, lads? It's the Super Ranger MiniForce, Ranger MiniForce. What a tune. I don't know why I have to whisper that. What a tune, though. For better or for worse, this is just Season 1 of the show. And Season 2 could make it worse, granted, or could redeem the entire thing. Who knows? Let's find out. Just pausing the video to say thank you to the legends that are the channel patrons, and a special thank you to our Super Dino Mode patrons Sarah Jane, Eric Lloyd, Sam James and Joel Higgins. For just £3 per month, you can get early access to videos and get your names credited in them. The link to join is in the description below. Season 2 kicks off with the introduction of new Super Dinos after the original ones were really badly damaged at the end of Season 1. I don't know where the original ones are now. Maybe at the top of a tip. These new dinos are slightly bigger and they look a bit more complex, but it's their new names that have me spinning. Tyra Volt, Terra Sami, Chio Max, Sarah Lucy, and Stego Leo. And I mean, the original names weren't that creative, but it was better than this. It's just part of the dinosaur name with the ranger's name afterwards. Instantly, Season 2 is bashing the door down with more sauce, giving us our first roll call of the show and hyping us up for what's to come. I just want to take a minute to point out this guy's name. When he was introduced in MiniForce X, his name on paper was Leo, but every single character, this being in the English dub, called him Rio. So for his entire time in this video, I've been calling him Rio, but now they've started calling him Leo, and I don't know what his name is if that's the case. I'm gonna stick with Rio, because that's what I've been doing through all of these videos, and that's what they say mostly in the show. So whether I say Rio, Leo, Philip, Carlton, I'm talking about the Onyx Black Cat. They set up a training sequence for the team, but Volt is the only person we actually see do the training. The sequence is pretty neat, with the introduction of the new Tyranno Gauntlet, which is able to fire out small discs to destroy their opponents. The B-plot of the episode is about Volt not brushing his teeth, getting a toothache, and resulting in a toothpaste monster. Sometimes I feel bad for not talking about the B-plots that much, but they're honestly the most brain-dead part of the episode. I mean, even they were like that in the first few shows as it is. The team fight the toothpaste monster and a bunch of teeth henchmen in the city, and this is where Rio and Lucy show off something else that the Super Dinos can do. Transforming into Super Dino armor bots. That is correct, the new Super Dinos can turn into mech suits for the team, giving them more height, more strength, and more abilities. By the end of the episode, all of the Rangers are in their armor bot modes, and honestly, I love it. It's something new, something fun, that doesn't undermine the powers they already had. It's great. However, the toothpaste monster is able to escape, and we lead into episode 2. I don't know if this is how the show is going to mean to go on, but the first 2 episodes being interconnected and doing a longer story, already we're off to a better start. Captain Powerman sends the toothpaste monster back to the city where they experiment with different Super Dino attacks, with Lucy getting a decent amount of focus. Maybe more focus than the entirety of Season 1. With this, we get the introduction of a new Super Dino machine, a black, red, and gold Stegosaurus that can transform into Stego Magma, using it to destroy the toothpaste monster. Gotta say, adding a new dino machine this early on into the series is a pretty ballsy move, and it looks great as well, finally another actual dinosaur mech. It also looks great in both Stegosaurus form and fighter form. Business goes on as usual for the next few episodes, until episode 6 where another new mech is debuted to fight a soda can monster. The new mech begins as a two-piece, Tyranno Car and Terra Air, that then combine to create Tyranno Lightning. Of course, not to be confused with Tyranno Thunder from last season. It's not a bad looking mech. The purple and yellow combo is a nice change from the constant blue and red, even if they are just repaints of Terra Sky and Tyranno Thunder's car form. It has a shield function, which is quite unique to this mech, and has a cool Pteranodon-inspired lightning attack. In episode 8, the team must face monsters made from a police car and a fire truck. So naturally, within 2 episodes of introducing new dino machines, we get new dino machines. An orange fighter called Lipuma and a green fighter called Graviton. We see them utilized separately until episode 9 where they face a bunch of gigantified animals from the zoo, to which Lipuma and Graviton combine with each other, kind of doing a reverse to the others and transforming into a giant Brachiosaurus mech called Brachy Magnet. Low-key, might be my favourite mech so far. Maybe not by looks necessarily, but I love how it starts as two separate fighters that combine to a dinosaur rather than the opposite. Even though I do feel like a more tactical approach would be the two separate fighters. However, the strength is definitely doubled when it becomes that bracky magnet. Episode 9 is also a parody on King Kong, where one of the zoo animals was a gorilla who ended up befriending Susie, tries to save her from the chaos, and ultimately takes her to the top of a building. Fortunately for the kids, they spare us the fate of King Kong, which we won't go any further into. Episode 11 of Season 2 introduces us to two new villains. One is a guy named Canva, who will be working as a sort of leading general, similar to Zod in MiniForce X, but then also some form of purple energy that appears in this monitor. Their name is Lord Polus, and they seem to be the person that Captain Powerman is actually working for. Despite the fact he hasn't been seen up until halfway through Season 2, which is now, there was no alluding to the fact that Captain Powerman was working for somebody else, but apparently he is. Lord Polus doesn't have much screen time in this episode, but Canva does get to go out and fight the Rangers. He meets Sammy first and absolutely smokes him before creating a lamppost monster for the rest of the team to fight. Canva's design is okay, like there's nothing too special about it. He's very clearly made to fit in with the other two lackeys from Captain Powerman's team. Despite being given a bigger role, you can see how he blends in with the red, yellow and blue aesthetic. Lord Polus seems like he could build up to something really menacing, you know, looking like Zordon in this tube. He's clearly very evil. We just don't really know much about him, and again, just dropped in midway through Season 2, and we're expected to think he's really scary. I don't know. Time will tell. So, with new villains, episode 13 introduces us to a new ranger. Her name is Lena, and she's an agent of MiniForce that has been assigned to the main team. Lena is a grey bunny who looks a lot more like Anna from the first MiniForce movie. I don't know why they didn't just reintroduce Anna rather than creating a whole new character, because Anna had a great backstory and could have done with some more screen time. I also really liked her suit. That white and red combo was really nice. The villain for the episode is a vegetable monster, which allows Lena to jump into action. Get it? Jump. Cause she's a bunny. As the orange Stegosaurus Ranger. Now, not only have they lazily just reassigned the Stegosaurus to Lena, because Rio was already currently the Stegosaurus, they did that with Jackie and Volt as well, there's two T-Rexes, but this is the first time we've had a MiniForce Ranger not be the same colour as their animal form. Volt's a blue squirrel and he's the Blue Ranger. Max is a yellow beaver, so he's the Yellow Ranger, Jackie's a green monkey and he's the Green Ranger. Lena's like a grey bunny, or a white bunny, or a silver bunny. I don't know, she's not orange. Definitely not the biggest deal, but it for sure felt like their colours were fundamental to their character designs until Lena came along with an orange suit. The hype is once again left behind due to the lack of a cool introductory morphing or first battle sequence, and instead we're thrown straight in so Lena and Volt can destroy the vegetable monster, or as I'm naming him, the Vegemon. Episode 14 is a weird one. There's like an electricity, like bulb monster that is terrorizing the town, but Volt also gets electrocuted in this episode and just sort of becomes Electro from Spider-Man, being able to zip through anything with an electric current and even getting his own super suit. My bad, bro. I forgot that you weren't already a superhero with a badass suit. Just give yourself a new one. Why not? The powers last for just this episode as he immediately loses them at the end. Oh, and Lena, who was introduced last episode, isn't in this one. She was introduced as a new member of the team, and now she's gone. We have Jackie and Ray. That could be showing up whenever, and they barely are. We then introduce a new ranger, and she's gone by the episode after. What? Why? What is this? And then episode 15 brings Lena back, which makes me wonder whether they're just mismatching the episodes and they're not coming out in the order they intended to, or if they just have Ray, Jackie, and Lena as just like characters that benefit the story when they need to. I don't know. Like MiniForce started as a 4 and we added Ray and he'd pop in and out, and then Hawk existed for one episode, then he disappeared for the rest of the time. Then Jackie was introduced, he popped in and out. We have Rio, who once he joined, stayed. So he joined as the official 5th Ranger. I'm trying to make sense of it. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make sense of it, and I can't. Why are we introducing these characters and then just like making them disappear whenever we want? In this episode, there is an air purifier monster, and it's down to Jackie and Lena to save the day, with Jackie now being a huge simp over Lena. In the last series, Jackie was a Volt superfan and would always try to follow in his footsteps, all while annoying him. And there's a little bit of that in this show, but it mainly now all goes to Jackie being a massive simp for Lena. That's the way it is now. When times get tough for Jackie and Lena, I thought it'd be the perfect time to call on Bracky Magnet, because orange and green, literally their colours. However, this is Super Dino Power we're talking about, where consistency means nothing. Instead, the rest of the team swoop in last minute with a new Super Dino machine called Turbo Storm. And let's be honest, that is a badass name. Especially when you're a child, that shit pops off. Turbo Storm is a dark blue and white mech with yellow accents. A combo that works very well together and has both a fighter and dinosaur form. And I've definitely changed my mind. Turbo Storm is the best mecha so far. It looks great. I can see those toy sales, just the straight graph up. It also has this great electric roar attack that they're able to use to defeat the monster. And now episode 17 gives us maybe my favourite moment in the entirety of this show so far. The team goes sledding before Captain Powerman turns one of the sleds into a monster. The team use their Super Dino Armor Bot forms to take on the monster, but for the entire episode, all of the boys are arguing over getting in each other's way. By all of the boys, I of course mean Rio, Sammy, Max, and Volt. Ray and Jackie are nowhere to be seen, and even though she's not a boy, Lena is also gone again. Whilst everyone argues, Lucy is attacked by the monster and is turned completely into ice, with her last wish being that they all work together to defeat him. Of course, the boys feel terrible and they all team up with each other to try and defeat the sled monster, but there's no use. It is too strong, and it's even got like little snowman golems that is throwing out to attack them. It is a scene and a half for MiniForce, genuinely. It seems like there is no hope until the ice around Lucy starts to crack. Then she breaks free, rises to the sky, and becomes the MiniForce Snow Queen. She gets the most badass suit upgrade I've ever seen, going from pink to a pale icy blue while gaining a cape and a crown. She then solos the ice monster, using ice powers of her own to freeze him over, then with the help of Sarah Lucy, just charges through him with a spear, breaks the ice, he turns back into a sled, the Powerball leaves him. What a moment for Lucy. She has been, since day one of the most underutilized members of MiniForce, throughout all the series, especially this one, but definitely throughout the entire thing. Will we see that suit again? Let's be real, probably not. I don't have high hopes for that, but god damn, it looks peak! And there we go! The first peak of the video, well deserved. What a moment. Pop off, Queen. Now, episode 19 isn't the most entertaining in terms of monster battles, etc., but there's something that happens in this episode that I just feel like needed praise. Volt is carting a big box of antiques through the street and a lamp falls off the top, but there is a young girl in a wheelchair that returns the lamp to Volt. That Volt then ends up being able to spawn a genie, which has a bunch of hijinks in the episode where the genie itself ends up turning into be the monster, and there's not a hell of a lot to it in that regard. But the lesson learned in the episode that happens right at the end is that Volt uses his final genie wish, finds the girl in the wheelchair and wishes her back to full health, and she's just able to walk again. And like, it's a very standalone one-off episode like most episodes in this show, but there was just something quite wholesome about that. Like, for MiniForce Super Dino Power, that was a cool episode. It felt like it actually taught the kids something about genies aren't real and you can't just wish people back to health like that, but just doing nice deeds for other people, not being selfish, giving things to people that need it the most. Fair. Like, that was, I genuinely was kind of speechless by the end of that episode. I was like, wow, that's like the best thing the show has done story moral wise so far. Episode 20 is a really fun one. Susie has a robotic sort of companion servant that helps around the house. However, she and Volt mistreat it, which leads to Captain Powerman turning it into the monster of the week. It inevitably grows into a giant, and more Super Dino machines are introduced. This time called Force Superbots, individual mechs for each ranger, very similar to the Force cars from the original show. Finally, some color coordination to the rangers, and we even get a roll call.
Volt, Sammy, Max, Lucy, Leo, Force Superbots!
Listen, I've been vibing with the new types of Zords and Megazords, but to see them get personalized mechs again does bring me joy. Rio's is definitely my favorite, Sammy is a close second, and the rest are fine. Their attacks and powers aren't much different to the previous mechs, mainly being some sort of laser blast, but Volt does get a cool electric punch, which could be a callback to his time as Max Dillon. Episode 21 opens with them playing Beyblade?
Wait, remember Beyblade?
A comically large Beyblade is whipped out, which is later turned into a monster by Captain Powerman. The 4 Superbots are called to face it, and of course they can combine, although not exactly how you'd assume. Very similar to Bracky Magnet, the 5 Force Superbots combine into Super Tyra King, which is a giant T-Rex mecha. And look, at this point, I'm very much understanding of the fact that we're probably not going to get a big sort of combined Megazord as we know it. Maybe nothing tops the Force X Pentatron Magnum Dong Super Cruiser 7000 that the last show gave us. And as a result, I like the idea of this, that Fighter Mechs can go into dinosaur form rather than the opposite, as stated with Bracky Magnet. But there is something to be said about the execution. This dude's ugly. It's like a Lego set with some lost pieces, so the kid just compromised with the bottom half. Its super attack is another basic laser strike, which means there's little to no reason for this mech formation to exist, other than for toy sales, which, let's be honest, is the reason why there are so many mechs in this. is for toy sales. Episode 22 sees Captain Powerman having enough of Lord Polus's judgment and cuts him off completely, having a new master plan to turn innocent civilians into his own servants, including the main 4 MiniForce Rangers, leaving Rio as the last remaining MiniForce Ranger that can put a stop to it. But wait, what about Ray, Jackie and Lena? Rio is the only one that can do it. Everyone is being controlled via these masks that are linked to one singular controller which Rio is able to snatch and deactivate, freeing everyone and allowing the team to call on Super Tyra King to face Captain Powerman and his lackeys 1v1 in the mechs, seemingly defeating Captain Powerman for good. The episode ends with Lord Polus returning and telling Canva that he will go on to grant him all of his power after Captain Powerman betrayed him. Okay, we're getting to the final few episodes and some action is starting to pick up. I like the sound of it. Until, of course, we hit episode 23 and we go straight back to filler. Volt and Sammy somehow have jobs as dolphin pilots? Riders? Which results in Canva showing up at the aquarium, fighting the team and using a Powerball to possess a shark in the tank where Sammy and Volt are. Rio sends them an assist in the form of the Megalodon powers from season 1, re-granting Volt his Aqua Science suit and giving Sammy somewhat of a new suit. His shade of red doesn't really change, but he does get a new nautical-esque helmet along with the same suit functions to allow him to fight underwater. He also gets his own upgraded Megalodon robo along with Volt, which can now become mech suits for them. Honestly, it's an enjoyable watch. I'm glad those Megalodon powers came back. It would have been such a waste to leave them for one episode only, so it's cool to see not only Volt in this new suit, but to see Sammy get them, and to see the Megalodon get one of the new Super Dino upgrades that can become mech suits. And the idea of them fighting inside an aquarium is a pretty unique concept. King Shark over here does look a little bit janky, but I mean, out of all the whack-ass monsters we've had in the show, he's not the worst looking by any means. For what it's worth, it's cool that we saw the Megalodon form extended to Sammy, though I'd have loved for it to go to Max, as I feel like he's not really had a badass moment this series. There was that episode where he became a kaijin, but like, it was more of a gag. It was like the butt of a joke rather than an actual cool moment for him. That said, Sammy has always somewhat been second in command, so it makes sense that the sort of powers would extend to him first. Episode 24 doesn't really add that much to the story, but we do get to see Canva combine with a real-life octopus. I don't really know how that works anatomically. Interesting enough to mention. Low-key, I also think they destroy Canva in this episode. Like, they blast at him and he explodes, but they don't hold on the shot long enough to see if he's there or not afterwards. I can't tell you for a fact that he doesn't show up again in this series, but who am I to say he doesn't show up again in another series? I don't know, like, I think they destroyed Canva in this episode, but it's a great... Same with Captain Powerman in the other episode as well, to be fair. They just sort of disappear. There's no, like, yeah, we finally defeated him. It's just, like, explosion, and the episode ends like that. There's not even an epilogue to it. And now, with episodes 25 and 26, we get the 2-part finale to the Super Dino Power series. Lord Polus has returned, this time in a physical form, and he's just a blob of weird purple goop. Like if Ivan Ooze's henchmen sort of stopped mutating at this stage and sprouted out eyes and a mouth. Just like Ivan Ooze, Polus begins to fill the city with his purple goop with the plan to submerge it entirely. They really didn't set Polus up enough for this to be such a high of a stake. Like, they're telling us that this is dangerous and he is trying to drown a city, but like, I would have loved to have seen this guy lurking in the backgrounds or something beforehand, and I'd also have loved for this guy to not look like this goofy ass motherfucker. Like, how is this purple snot ball meant to be the be all and end all of the series, The team split up with Rio, Lucy and Max heading to the city to stop the ooze and save civilians, while Volt and Sammy approach the new giant Lord Polus directly. In the city, the streets are filling with ooze, and the Rangers try to create a safety point surrounded by a shield. But the ooze keeps rising and the shield they've created is breaking. Amongst the fighting, Sammy is knocked down and is genuinely dying, reaching out to Volt saying he's their only hope in defeating Lord Polus. As the shield breaks, the city begins to drown, but Commander Chen is able to contact Volt and grants him and his Super Dino a new armoured power-up. The Ultimate Dino Armour. Listen, I've used it once. I'm going to be indulgent. I'm going to use it again. Peak! The new armor genuinely looks great. I love the new dino-shaped helmet, the beefier body armor, and the badass dino gauntlets on his arms. Even his Super Dino gets an armored upgrade that makes him impenetrable to Lord Polus's sword, which now that I'm looking at it, looks quite questionable. With these new powers, Volt is able to destroy Lord Polus and save the entire city. Until the remaining residue of Lord Polus latches onto Sammy's body, possessing him and turning him into an evil mini-force giant. The rest of the team unite to assist Volt in their Force Super Bots, but he is far too powerful in Sammy's body and finesses them all. Now, Polus is about to destroy them all until Sammy is able to temporarily break through the possession and insists that the team destroy him so that they destroy Polus as well. Where is this emotional weight been for the entire show? Told you, I could see cracks of MiniForce X in there. It's still there. It's beneath all the bullshit. There's some story there. This would have been so good if there was more build up to it. The team channel all the energy they have and blast it at Sammy, knocking Polus out of him as he shrinks to normal size. Volt lifts Sammy with his force bot, looking down at his lifeless body. Each character gets a moment to grieve, until Sammy begins to twitch, cough, and eventually wake up. But there's no time to celebrate, because now the remains of Polus from the city have come back to life, and have just taken different parts of city streets and buildings and created a giant monster out of the city with this face. I mean, it's taken any sort of menace away from it, but still, out here looking like a Kevin Levin amalgam monster, and this is Bro's second resurrection. Like, what in God's name? The team forms Super Tyra King, but they're simply too small and too weak to match Lord Polus's new form. Polus is about to crush them until Jackie swoops in piloting Stego Magma, followed by Ray the Goat in Turbo Storm, and finally Lena piloting Bracky Magnet. With all 8 Mini-Force Rangers united, they collectively fire at Lord Polus before channeling the power from all of the mechs and all life on planet Earth into Super Tyra King to perform one final blast at Polus, finally destroying him once and for all. The episode ends with a fun epilogue to suggest that the adventures will go on, with Rio accidentally using a device to turn Susie into a giant. And that is MiniForce Super Dino Power. What an ending. The finale of this show was truly a spectacle. Seeing the city get engulfed, almost losing a ranger, Volt getting an insanely cool power-up, and then ending with all 8 rangers using a variety of mechs to destroy Lord Polus. It's proof that both the creativity and passion from the original MiniForce shows are still there amongst the rubble. I wish I could say that I had fun with Super Dino Power, but the little moments of gold just weren't enough to redeem the show for me. I mean, for one, the characters were stripped of absolutely everything they had. I mean, granted, there wasn't a whole lot of intricacy to the characters to begin with, but small things like their designated superpowers were enough to make them unique from one another. Volt had super speed, Sammy could jump high, Lucy had force fields, and Max was super strong. These powers weren't mentioned or utilized once in this entire show. Volt was on a steady decline anyway, going from a decent leader to a fool who occasionally steps up to the mantle, but in this show, the only real sense of him being a good leader was in the first Megalodon episode and in this finale, both of which came with upgraded suits, so it was most likely the writers being told to actually do something with him so they could sell the toys easier. Sammy did hardly anything until the final few episodes. He went from the Raphael type character who wishes he was the leader to literally just existing. And I mean that, he has no story up until the final 2 episodes where he tries to sacrifice himself for the team. Lucy had an amazing moment as the Snow Queen, which genuinely gets extra points from me, not that of course I'm keeping score of that, but without the singular 4-minute moment, she blends completely into the background. And same goes for Max. The only thing he does in this entire series is... Rio was a glorified tech man who very rarely contributed to the action. At least in the last show, he was an high-tech genius and a good fighter. Jackie lost his one commemorable trait, which was how much he looked up to Volt. He wasn't much but an annoyance in this show when they decided to include him. And don't even get me started on Lena, who wasn't in more than 3 episodes. They introduce her halfway through the season, she misses an episode and she returns, and then we don't see her again until the finale. And Ray, my sweet, sweet Ray, what did they do to you? That lone wolf extra ranger that came and went as he pleased with the best multifunctional mech and the slickest of all suits, reduced to a gag that was only used when the rangers were in serious peril, and even when he showed up, didn't do a lot. Abysmal! Susie and Louie were also there. Susie a lot more than Louie for whatever reason, but the B-plots were worse than the previous shows, though one pro is that Uncle Dory didn't return, which is an absolute win. And you know what, screw it, yeah, the Super Dino Power is great for that one reason. The bad guys in the show had no weight to them either. The lackeys, or as they're named, Gyunimon and Genimon, 2 names that I didn't know until after watching the show, were nothing but comic relief characters to take all the hits. The Dan crew last series had one of the best character arcs in all of MiniForce, and as a result, seems like it will never be beaten with the way it's going. Canva had potential to be like Zord, but they put no effort into hyping up his power and showed no notable difference when receiving the power Lord Polus said he'd give him. And then there's Captain Power Man, who was the main big bad for 2 seasons, only to get no real backstory, do nothing but think inanimate objects deserve the chance of revenge, only to then be destroyed in his mech after a master plan that didn't work for longer than 2 minutes. Compared to Master Xenos, who soloed all 7 Rangers and could only be defeated by countering his own lust for negative energy, Captain Power Man is no better than just a useless henchman. The novelty of the Power Balls wears off very quickly, and the story of Power Man thinking he's the real hero literally goes nowhere. It would have been so much better if eventually he learned that letting these objects enact revenge and terrorize the city isn't what being a hero means, and that he isn't the hero, he should realize he's the villain, and then team up with MiniForce to help them defeat Lord Polus. That would have worked, that would have been so much better. But no, he's just a villain that is defeated alongside his lackeys in a mech that looks exactly like him. Just has a stupid name as well. Let's put that out there, Captain Power Man. I don't know why I Charlie D'Amelio'd that bit then, but I don't know, it felt necessary. And finally, Lord Polus. Someone who the show expected us to fear despite showing up in about 5 episodes as a ball of energy before revealing himself to be a purple version of Bob from Monsters vs. Aliens. I mean, granted, the grind set that he put into that finale, fair enough. He's a scary guy. Bro got resurrected twice and possessed a ranger, like credit where it's due. But despite me actually enjoying the final episode, it was mainly for the power-up and to actually see all 8 rangers working together. In actual fact, the show did nothing to build up to that moment, and it left me wanting so much more. Before I move on, let me just cover all the monsters of the week that I didn't talk about from season 2. An ice cream monster, a baby bottle monster with giant babies, Hulk Jackie, some bread aliens, a washing machine monster, and a balloon monster. So, what actually went wrong with this show? As I've stated multiple times, I'm very aware that I am not the target audience for this show. I'm not the target audience for MiniForce in general, and I'm definitely not the target audience for MiniForce Super Dino Power. But MiniForce X left me gobsmacked and restored my faith in the fact that shows made for kids can actually have a great story with great life lessons, all while having some amazing action. Super Dino Power lowers its age range dramatically. I'd honestly say going from 8 to 12-year-olds to 4 to 7-year-olds, fundamentally misunderstanding the audience it garnered from its first 2 shows and creating nothing but a bright coloured drool fest that does nothing but showcase new toys that you can buy. I mean, it works, clearly. I mean, not for this. I haven't bought Super Dino Power toys yet. And I'm not even disappointed that it was a bad show. I'm more so disappointed that you could see those moments of grace. The episode where they become human for a day, the Snow Queen episode, and the finale, all of these had a silhouette of MiniForce X that still did capture the goofiest side of the franchise, but still told compelling stories partnered with flashy action. Because for MiniForce X, it wasn't just story-based either. Each episode had some bit of flashy action, which had art to it, that somebody sat and designed and put time into. It's the X discs that I think about the most. I think I mentioned that earlier in the video. The MiniForce X discs, all of those sequences were goated, especially that one at the end when they fight Master Xenos. Just an artist having a great time with their job and putting their all into it. For the most part, Super Dino Power doesn't even give us the privilege of a roll call, let alone anything else that includes an artist's creative expression. And it truly blows my mind that they dropped the sort of 2-part episode formula and just stuck to single 11-minute episodes. I can only imagine how much extra work the designers and animators at Samji had to do to create all these original monster designs, because they had to almost double the amount of work they would have done for MiniForce X. And I also noticed that the show kind of lost its purpose when we hit this iteration. Originally, MiniForce was set up as a show where smaller animals were being hunted by bigger animals and humans. So to defend themselves, they created MiniForce. This was apparent in the first show where Pascal and Nine were the main villains. Then in MiniForce X, they go above the Call of Duty when aliens begin invading, and MiniForce step their game up to defend the planet against these intergalactical threats. It all came as this big, like, overarching story for the organization of MiniForce within the show, but then the show itself. By the time we get to this show, they're already established heroes with action figures and TV shows. Sure, it's the next logical step, but the show both starts and ends that way with nothing new to look forward to. And maybe I'm alone in that thought, but I just feel like what the first 2 series did, they felt very connected, and this one doesn't. The video is not over yet. Coming out of this show and editing this video and just looking back at all my thoughts on it, one thing that I've realized is that I adore the amount of robos we have in this, specifically the 4 spots, the Zords, the Megazords, not necessarily the super dinos that they ride, but the big machines that they pilot. And I was saying earlier that they do only exist because of toy sales, but in comparison to the previous MiniForce shows, there are a lot of robots in this. So I thought, why not rank every single 4 spot that they had in this show? We've got Super Dino up the top, Diabolical at the bottom, and A, B, and C in the middle. First up, we have Tyranno Thunder in car form. And listen, it's not a robot that I particularly care for. You know, it's a fine-looking car. The red and blue, considering it's the first time we get, I know the red and blue gets quite repetitive, but this is the first one, it's fine. In car form, it is what it is. I guess it's really not bad. I'm gonna pop it in B. it's just in the middle. There's nothing to go off yet, and it could move down later on. Tyranno Thunder in mech form, however, is a weird one, because it's not a bad start in mech. It's a bit clunky for my liking. It reminds me a lot more of the original Force bots from the first MiniForce series, which looked awful. Like, the wheel shoulder pads are quite cool, and the rest of the body's like slicking away, and I can appreciate that it's this car transformed with no extra parts. It doesn't really do anything for me. I'll be honest, I think I like the car version better, so I'll put it in B as well. But we are going to order them in the tiers. I think the car version is better than the mech version. And then Terra Air in its Pteranodon form. Pretty basic. It's cool when mechs can fly, and obviously this can. It's a damn Pteranodon. As a base design though, you can tell that it's like fighter. You can tell that it was created to be the warrior mode first, and that came afterwards, just by the lack of detail on its back. It's going in C. But then Terra Air, the mech form, I actually really like. I'm going to put that in B, right at the top. Could change later, could go up, but out of both the Tyranno Thunders, I think Terra Air in its warrior form is a lot better. We then have Tricera Rush, which is another red. So far, we've only had blue and red as the colours. This is another red, and fun fact, there's about to be another blue as well. But Tricera Rush is great. Fun fact, I love me a Triceratops. And considering it's the exact same colour scheme as the bird version of Terra Air, the design is so much better. Tricera Rush goes in A tier. I like that. As just a standalone Zord that just operates in its dinosaur form, I think is great. Dino Knight, as cool as the name is, and as much as I love the colour blue, doesn't really do it for me. He can go in C tier under Terra Air. I don't really care for Dino Knight on his own, especially not in comparison to Tricera Rush. But Dino Knight doesn't fail completely, because when he combines with Tricera Rush to become Force Trigger, that's getting an A tier. I don't know if I like it more than the standalone Tricera Rush. Maybe I do. No, I think I like the simplicity of Tricera Rush on its own. But Force Trigger is the first A tier full fighter mech. Stegomagma also gets an A tier slot. I really like Stegomagma in the Stegosaurus form. The fact that the first mech we saw was a car, despite it having dinosaur features, it was a car. In Super Dino Power, I'm here for the dinosaur mechs. Personally, maybe that's just a me thing. It's a Stegosaurus, you can't go wrong. And it's a cool colour scheme as well. They ditched the blue for like a grey, which is nice, because obviously it links more to Rio at that point. And even though Stegomagma wasn't officially Rio's, it's still a Stegosaurus, you know, it links up. And Lena hadn't been introduced at that point, so they wouldn't have made it orange either way. The Stegomagma form, I also really love. The grey and red looks great in this scenario. Definitely like it more than this. I think I like it more than this. I think that's where Stegomagma goes in its warrior form, without a doubt. No Super Dinos yet. And I haven't thought this through, by the way, beforehand, so I don't know where these are going. There might be one Super Dino at least, we'll see. Graviton is just a green warrior, and I don't care for him. I think I like him better than Dino Knight and Terra Air, but I don't really care. Same with Lupima. I think I prefer the green one, but they both go there. However, when they become Brachymagnet, it's a feature I really like. I like that they can build into a dinosaur rather than dinosaurs building into a person. I think he goes in B, and I think it goes to the top of B, personally. Turbo Storm in dino form is Super Dino. It's gotta be. The colours are great. Navy blue and white. It looks slick. I'm not going to swear. I think I've sworn in this video many times, but I'm not going to swear. And the T-Rex form of it just looks great, man. And even the fighter form of Turbo Storm, it is at minimum there. At minimum there. It might be going up to Super Dino, you know. And you know what, with that, I think Tricera Rush does as well. Yeah, we're going to say that. We're bumping Tricera Rush up as well. 3 Super Dinos in one swoop. I love Turbo Storm. The introduction is kind of badass. It's like one of the most random introductions, considering I thought that they were going to bring in Brachymagnet to match the colour scheme, but Turbo Storm is still a cool looking mech. And now we come on to the 4 Superbots, which I debated even adding, because I was like, they're definitely not the Super Dinos, and I was like, I'm not including them because they're not like the Force bots, they're the Super Dinos. These are the individual mechs that they get at the end of the show that obviously culminate into Super Tyra King. 4 Superbot Vault is fine, bottom of C tier at best. 4 Superbot Sammy is actually pretty good. I kind of like the design of this guy. I'd say I like him more than Graviton and Lipuma. He goes there. You know what? I put Tyranno Thunder in the middle just to level it out before. I think Sammy goes up here, and I think Tyranno Thunder and the 2 cars, I think they go down in C. I think that's where I'm going with that. And I actually think I like this more than Terra Air, you know. But no, I like Brachymagnet more than that. 4 Superbot Max is diabolical, and I'm sorry, so is 4 Superbot Lucy. I don't know what went on there. They're the shortest of them all, and look, we love a short king and queen. That's not an issue. They just don't look competent at all. Compared to the other guys' mechs, They're not great. They're really not. They're really clunky, really bulky. It doesn't look like they're that efficient. No thank you. We got 4 Superbot Rio. Or as I've written it as Leo, because I still don't know how we're meant to be pronouncing that guy's name. The dark blue and white, man. It matches Turbo Storm. It looks good. It looks good. I definitely like it more than Sammy, I think. I think I'm happy for that to stay there. And then Super Tyra King is also fine. Is it diabolical? I don't know. Is it my bottom of C? Maybe. Maybe that's my ranking. Diabolical, 4 Superbot Max, 4 Superbot Lucy. They're definitely staying there. I do not like those mechs. C tier, from bottom to top, Super Tyra King, 4 Superbot. I think he's cooler than 4 Superbot Vault. Maybe he's cooler than these two. I do think Graviton and Lipuma separately are cooler than him. Then Tyranno Thunder in warrior form, then Tyranno Thunder in car form, then B tier, bottom's Terra Air in fighter form, 4 Superbot Sammy, 4 Superbot Leo, and then Brachii Magnet in the dinosaur form, in the Brachiosaurus form. Bottom of A tier, we have Stego Magma. Next up is Force Trigger, then Stego Magma in warrior form. Then in Super Dino, we have Tricera Rush, and again, that might just be my Triceratops bias, along with Turbo Storm in fighter mode, followed by Turbo Storm in dino mode. And honestly, I think these two could alternate. I just really like seeing the dinosaur shaped mechs. That's just my opinion. There we go. Disagree with me down below if you want. That's what I'm saying. Imagine finishing recording and realizing you forgot Tyranno Lightning and the Terra Sky or Terra Air that goes with it and the car. They'd go yeah, but I don't know, I forgot them. There are 2 more installments of Super Dino Power, those being a movie called MiniForce Raid of Hamburger Monsters and a mini-series called Super Dino 7, which served as a sort of toy commercial for a new line of mechs called the Super Dino 7. The exact type of Megazord I was pining for all season. It even has a Megalodon and a damn mammoth, bro. I did try my hardest to get my hands on both the movie or the miniseries. I couldn't find them anywhere. So if I find them again in the future, then I will maybe do a separate video on them. But consider this to be the section of the video where we talk about Super Dino 7 and the Hamburger Monster, because I just can't find them anywhere. Apparently in the Burger movie, Volt becomes famous and leaves the team momentarily, but the attack of the Burger Monsters is enough to bring him back. Sounds like any other episode of MiniForce, honestly, except 86 minutes long. And honestly, I don't know if I could have put myself through that. It's not after 10 hours of Super Dino Power as it is. So yeah, Super Dino Power is a step down. There's no sugarcoating that. The age range shift, the loss of narrative progression, and the feeling that this exists more to sell toys than to tell stories, it's just all a bit disappointing, especially when you know what Samji's capable of. But here's the thing, even in the middle of all the smoke and the flames, you do see the older series pop through. There were glimpses of the MiniForce X DNA still living inside the show, fighting to get out, and honestly, this gives me a little hope. It tells me that the Samji talent hasn't gone anywhere, so that if there is a further rendition of MiniForce that comes after this, maybe there's a chance it's better. Maybe it's a chance they get that creative flair back and there's somewhat of a solid story to it rather than just brain rot and toy sales. You are? Say again. There is more after this. Oh. Well then join me next time where we see how the dinosaurs went on to evolve as I explore the world of MiniForce Animaltron. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on MiniForce down below, and if you made it this far into the video, comment the words Ray the Goat so I know who made it to the end and who didn't.